I thought this was going to be an easy thing.
Just talking into a microphone, right?
Well, I figured it out. We'll go ahead and start the show if you want to.
Sure.
I don't know what episode this is. How many have we done?
9.
Is this 10?
I don't know. The last week's didn't work out. We had Adam. So Dakota was my guest last week.
Yeah, I saw a piece of that.
No, this one didn't get released. It was 2 hours and 50 minutes, and I couldn't release it because my temporary producer, Adam, didn't have his headphones on, so he didn't hear what was going on, and somehow his mic, which the reason why I've changed the whole setup because of that. Okay, we're gonna dummy proof this thing. Not that he's a dummy. I literally called him. Like, hey, could you do the show tonight? Can you like switch cameras? Because there's no editing. Dakota just switches the cameras back and forth. His microphone got left on and it left an echo in the room. So at least half the podcast is the echo. I was like, I cannot. It was such a good one too. I mean, not Adam's fault. Really, it's my fault because I tried to give Adam a microphone. Long story short, the show sounded like shit, and I just shit canned it. I was going to try to salvage it, but
Did you delete it?
no, I just never uploaded it.
Good.
I mean, I got the footage. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes. I don't think I could watch that. Sweet tea, by the way. That's unusual. I don't even drink tea. I just needed something. I just finished a cup of coffee, and I'll get that shitty taste in my mouth.
Yeah, the tea will be good to wet the whistle anyway.
Yeah. So I'm drinking water tonight, man. I'm pretty proud of myself. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking tea, actually. It's a, believe it or not, it's actually a local Nashville herbalist, I think you might call them, and apothecary. They sell all sorts of herbs and stuff, but this is a sing blend, so it's for Nashville vocalists.
For their vocals?
Yeah.
It's for your, really?
Yeah.
Vocal cords?
Mm-hmm.
No shit. You're always into some different shit.
They've been around for forever, man, and it's a really great company.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I just, I love herbs and spices and medicines and stuff like that. And it all ties into my job as well.
See, we didn't even know what we was going to talk about. And here we go. Before the damn show even started, we're already going. So, Erik Garcia, my longtime friend, started out as bartender, therapist. Fucking, you're just a man of many thoughts and ideas. And anyways, you were just always fascinating to be around. So we ended up doing a lot of different things together. Just experimenting.
We did, yeah. We've had a long and varied relationship for sure.
Yeah,
Lots of different
it was
things.
always good though. It was always good. We've done 3D models. You really pushed me in the photography, and it's just real. I don't know. He was one of the first people I thought of when I thought about doing this.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I was kind of surprised to see how choosy you are about who you bring on this podcast.
Does it seem that way?
Just because a lot I tend to just shoot for content. Of course, knowing you're very much a perfectionist, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I could have went for content and made this thing like, okay, so something Dakota and I was talking about, like me and Adam, like the lost episode, no one over here, we got hung up over a word. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter.
What word?
Hustle. Anyways, he was worried that I might sound offensive. And I was like, hustle. But I know I'm not trying to be offensive. It doesn't even matter. And plus, he thought I was shortchanging myself. Thought that, because I said, I'm just out hustling, man. And he's like, no, what you do is art. And I'm thinking, it doesn't feel like it. And it really isn't at this point because I'm just paying the bills.
Well, paying the bills
but not with art. It's hard to pay the bills with art. So the artist that I had on, I mean, she's an artist for a living.
Yes.
And shit. The stuff that I would have considered art, I never charged for, maybe weddings and stuff.
I feel like
now it's just commercials. These are stuff no one knows because they don't see them. I don't share them with anybody. You make them, you give them to a client. So I felt, anyways, what I was trying to say is, I'm going to digress and get off my subject, but Dakota said he was debating with Adam too and was like, well, no, you didn't even say anything to Adam, I guess. I don't remember, but long story short, he had told me, he said, well, what did you tell me, Dakota?
Adam wanted my opinion on if hustle sounded,
in the context that I had used it.
Right. Yeah, so it was...
Not trying to be ambiguous, I just don't want to get into it.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but what he said, what does matter is he said that he said, my dad, or he said, I think you'd rather... What did you fucking say to me? I'd rather be myself and only have 100 followers rather than be someone else and have thousands.
And thousands, yeah. That was the gist of it.
And that's really important to me, that I could be myself organically, because it's really hard to do on camera. I know it's hard because I see people get on camera, and I don't want to keep beating the dead. I talk about the same shit over and over and over, but fuck, it's what relates to my life. And I'm shocked at how difficult this is to just talk to a buddy on camera because I figured it out. I thought, fuck, this would be easy. I have great conversations with so many people. And you always think, well, God, if I could have recorded that would have just been, it was worth it.
Yeah. That's, I heard a quote from a show recently that I wanted to mention kind of early on, actually. And that quote was, sorry.
No, you're good.
And that quote was, science is only good for repeatable phenomena. Is I think the way that
science is only good for repeatable phenomena. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I think the crux of it is some of the best parts of life are the parts that only happen once.
Yeah.
They're unique. So...
See, you're just full of these little wisdom, little drops of wisdom.
I'm an aggressive fortune cookie generator.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But you're right, and I'm sorry, I'm probably cutting you off. I was about to write some shit down because it was like, just write down your ideas. But then that distracts me from what you're saying, and I feel like, fuck it, I'm just going to be me.
So a lot of times people get caught up in trying to convey an entire point, when in reality your brain's kind of doing a lot of work for you that people don't realize. Like the way that memory works is fascinating. Julia, my girlfriend, took an entire class on memory, and one of the most fascinating parts of it, and some independent studies that I've done about it as well, are that you just need a point of reference. So memory is solidified. Just write it down.
No, I just got it. You just gave me the idea.
Yeah.
Point of reference.
So the more connections that you have to a memory, the more solid that memory is. What's also interesting is that every memory that you have is not a memory of the original, it's a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
So things get fainter over time, but the more references you have to these individual memories, the more solid that memory becomes and the easier it becomes to retrieve.
This is fascinating because people tell me all the time, how do you remember all these things? They're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
You just nailed why I can regurgitate things that I didn't just read once. I mean, I've been studying them, and I've figured out how all these things are connected. So I think that may be why, because I have a terrible memory. I started recording things because I thought I was losing my memory because I couldn't remember family vacations, and I thought, I got to record this. I may be losing my mind. I don't know. And then, no, it wasn't that at all. I wasn't in the moment, I think. I think I was hustling in my head. I had too many ideas, and I wasn't really focusing on what was right in front of me. And I think that's why I have a hard time remembering a lot of things.
I think nostalgia is a key point in that. So, like a lot of memories, a lot of the things that we're told we should value. Write it down if you have something.
No.
A lot of things that we're told that we should value are things that don't elicit necessarily particular memories, things that elicit a feeling. So trying to remember a feeling is impossible, but through memory you can elicit a similar feeling or a feeling of nostalgia, which is... Nostalgia is not specific. You don't need one particular thing, one particular memory, one particular exact image in your head. That's not how the brain works. You just need something that makes you feel nostalgia, as a vague sense.
God, I spend so much of my time. You've already brought up several things that could be an entire podcast, and we may need to go back and revisit them because I haven't really thought about memory.
If you need to revisit something,
I do want to go back to. I keep saying a point of contact. I keep revisiting that in my head. So the bank. I was going around the bank the other day, and I can't believe I was able to trace my way back to what I was originally trying to think of.
Association.
So we were talking about having great conversations, but they happened organically.
Yes.
And that's why I don't really have. I know I want to spend more time maybe with some topics, but like you said, I mean, how much did you maybe stress over where a topic could go? And we do these weird things where we kind of I don't know if it'd be role playing. What could we talk about? First time I'm gonna be on camera, will I make an idiot of myself? Nerves and stuff. Anyways, I've gotten really good at just not thinking about it, and that's why I think all my conversations have been pretty good, considering they've been recorded. And that's what I'm trying to say. A good conversation is not planned. So the moment I was going around the bank the other day, and I was sitting there thinking, oh fuck, that's why this is difficult. That's why we're only about halfway as good as what a good conversation has been with my friends, or some conversations we've had, because you can't plan it. Like half the time I don't even want to have a podcast. I'm too stressed out, too much is going on in life, and then I just I've set a date, set a time, I've got to do it. We just show up and we do it. Does that make any sense at all? I mean, in my head it made perfect sense.
No, I mean, it sounds like you were in the bank and you were thinking about organic conversations, and perhaps...
Why can't I have... why is the podcast harder than normal conversations? And it hit me. I thought, oh, yeah, because you didn't go into the bar that night to have that conversation. It happened organically based on aha moment, or somebody said something. It triggered thought, right? All creativity, true creativity is born in spontaneity. You can't plan it.
Agreed entirely. And while I am an out and out Philistine, really, in all senses of the word, I do believe that associations play a key role in all of this. And one of the most important associations, I think, is that when you have a goal in mind, a specific goal, you have one thing, right? Whereas when you have an organic conversation, like you said, you might hear something that somebody else said. You have multiple associations happening in the room. Whereas if you just have one goal in mind, you only have one point of contact, right? Yeah. But if you have multiple points of contact, then it can pull different things out of your brain, because you have stuff saved all around. Your brain is not like a file cabinet with a bunch of little things in there. It's like a spider web full of dewdrops, with every dewdrop reflecting every other dewdrop, and everything is associated, everything's connected. But if the only point of contact that you have is focusing on your podcast, how can you expect to bring out anything organically? Mm-hmm. How can you reflect anything else if you're only focusing on one thing?
Well, I think you're right. I don't. Okay, so for instance, each guest, it's called Random Thoughts. I thought that was really appropriate for me. But like with you, I had some ideas, because only based on previous conversations. So I thought about it. Why are other podcasts? It seems so easy for them. And I feel that I'm always struggling. I say it takes me about 15, 20 minutes. And then I realize, oh shit, we're into something here. I don't have to worry anymore. This is not going to bust, because my fear is that I'm going to embarrass my guests by staring at each other. That's what happened. The very first podcast, we didn't know what to talk about.
Yeah.
It completely bombed. People watched it and didn't think too negatively of it, and I posted it. I wanted to see how bad I sucked. But I think that we just invested too much effort thinking about, it doesn't fucking matter. I think what I'm trying to say is that, what am I trying to say? What even got me on this topic? Ultimately, I don't invest any effort in what I'm going to talk about, other than maybe just an idea. Like for me and you, it was just, I'm fascinated with politics right now. Not politics. I'm really not. I'm fascinated with human culture.
Yes.
And I'm always talking about balance. For me, everything in life, I always try to see the balance in everything. And I don't want to go down that road right now, but if we did end up there, I thought it could be pretty interesting, because I'm not going to take a side.
So
necessarily
mentioning goals and mentioning how some conversations are easier, some conversations feel more organic than others. I think, first of all, like the point of, there's a quote, and I remember reading it from a cocktail book. I can't remember where it originated, but a dialogue will always be more productive than a monologue. A portion of the reason for that is the association. You have multiple stimuli encouraging, poking different parts of your brain, right? And then another side of that, in my opinion, is the organic aspect of things, and how, like, the associations that we pull. Where was I going with this? See, this is hard because there's like multiple things going on in the room, and I'm trying to focus on a particular thought that I had. So yeah, the repeatable parts, I think, like I said before, science is only good for the repeatable parts. And what it was is a psychological term called escalating reciprocal self-disclosure.
You're hard to follow sometimes.
Sorry.
You have a very good education. Right, whether it's traditional or self-taught.
Combo.
Yeah. You like to learn.
Yes.
I dumb things down the best I can. That's my goal in life. And I have to stop. Every time you say something, it's like almost, you're just very articulate.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm not. I joke, if you made me stop cussing, if you remove that from my vocabulary, that's half my vocabulary. I wouldn't have much to talk about. I'm a pretty simple dude. And you've kind of always impressed me.
Oh, thanks.
With your level of thought. I think I spend days on one simple idea, and you could just jump from one to the next. You process information very fast.
But I can't slow it down, and I can't focus on one thing, usually.
Well, you jump. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. See, this is organic.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Strengths and
people
weaknesses?
Talk about, focusing on one thing. See, I think I compare it to a camera lens. We're taught that ADD or ADHD is this ability to focus on many things at once. But see, I believe without a shadow of a doubt that's bullshit. I believe you can jump from one thing to the next, but I think people, and this has actually been described to me as the hunter, the ADHD or ADD, is the hunter, someone that hyper focuses. And I read this whole article on it. It's someone that there's nothing else. I hyper focus on this one thing. I can't hear anything. I can't process any other thoughts because it's captivated my attention. Unless it's boring and I just go from one thing to the next. But basically, like a camera can only focus on one thing at a time. Like from your eyeball, if you ever seen like shallow depth of field shots, like if I focus on the eye, the ear's out of focus. And if I accidentally focused on the ear, the eye's out of focus and the whole shot's ruined because the camera can only focus on a very shallow, if that makes sense, unless it's far away. And then it can see a lot more. But when you're really honing in on an idea, it's like everything else is blurry around that, if that makes any sense at all.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Otherwise, I'm just looking at the horizon, and I'm just kind of taking it all in. But still, if you think about what you're looking at, I look at that painting, and I'm actually looking at a speck, and then my eye is tracking from one little speck. If I look at it from the whole thing, it's hard to... Does that make any sense?
No,
I think our brain works the exact same way our eyes do, is what I'm trying to say.
No, I mean, from a mechanical standpoint, you're exactly right. If you unfocus, you are processing pretty much the exact same amount of information, just with less detail on the specifics. So, like, I would say that for ADHD specifically, which I have a lot of thoughts on as a lifelong, like, I'm in like the 98th percentile for ADHD kids in America, or I was when I was a kid, and now as an adult, I still rate pretty friggin' high as far as...
I think it's a superpower.
That would be what my girlfriend would call a positive reframe.
Well, I mean, there's a flip side to every coin. I've been thinking about that old phrase. You know, there's two sides to every coin.
Dogs.
Yeah. And there is, man. No matter how good something new is in your life, it always comes with, there's a burden to it. You may have not realized it yet.
Oh, I have.
Yeah, it's things that seem easy for other people I struggle with, but I'm really good at other things that they suck at.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I use mine as a superpower, and I would never medicate anybody. I did. My dad talked me into getting on Ritalin when I had my first business.
Ritalin was rough, man.
It was terrible.
Rage.
I couldn't do shit, and my roommate was snorting it one night when I come home, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah.
I was a zombie.
Yeah,
I was unproductive. The thing that made me great, likable, wanted to be around me, was gone for the 4 hours or however long it was. So,
did you hold down a job or studies while you were?
No, I had a business. I had a mechanic shop called East Lincoln Auto, and so it was supposed to help me focus with doing paperwork, things that I hate doing.
Yeah,
I suck at doing things that I don't like to do.
Bro, same. Oh my God, same.
It gets me in a lot of trouble, but
same.
I'm really, really good at high pressure situations, cranking out work. Anyways, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I've been ridiculously stressed and regretting even starting this podcast since maybe making the podcast isn't the hard part. It's producing it afterwards and breaking it down into little clips and making thumbnails, and nobody watches it because nobody knows it exists. This is one of those long games. This is 2 years before anyone even knows it exists. And I had to remind myself of why I was doing it. I wasn't doing it to be popular. I was doing it to catalog ideas, to see how you grow as a person, to try something new and creative. Hell, I got all this equipment sitting around. Why not take advantage of it?
Oh, yeah.
And Dakota thought it was a productive and positive idea. And it's been something that's been weighing on me for years. And I've regretted it ever since. But how are you going to quit? What kind of example am I going to teach my kids if I quit? But I can tell you.
We have a heavy focus on flaws, though, as part of the problem.
No.
Every time I inhale, you look at me.
Do I?
Yes.
Is that a flaw?
You hear noises.
You're just capturing my attention. Yeah.
You hear noises. You hear dogs. You look
I'm
at your
all about
kids.
details. I tell people, quit worrying about the shit you're doing right. That works. Worry about the things you're doing wrong. That's what you can change. That's what you should fix. So I'm really big on working on that. I notice every critical flaw.
So there's a lot of science behind ADHD, but there's very few specifics about it. But a lot of what surrounds the concept of ADHD as a disorder tends to revolve around dopamine. So dopamine response, dopamine addiction, and dopamine absorption and distribution, just everything around it. And again, we don't have anything specific. There's not like a specific gene that says, oh, well, this organism born with this is going to have ADHD. It's not about that. It's about how this person interacts with the world. And I think with a lot of ADHD people, the dopamine thing is a big deal. So let me take it back to the way that people deal with the world, the way that people cope with the world in many different ways. My girlfriend has a lot of anxiety, like a lot. One of the things that I've seen her do that has helped anxiety the most is not medication, is not anything. It's working out. Now, I am the last person to say, because I loathe working out entirely. I've done it just to be able to say with education that I hate it. I absolutely hate working out.
Yeah.
Now, for her, though, I notice, like, her mom at one point was distributing signs of a stroke, and she got a call from her dad just saying, hey, your mom's at the hospital, this is like a big, heavy situation. And I get a call while I'm going through orientation at a new job, and Julia is so calm. And she's just like, yeah, so my mom's showing signs of the stroke, blah, blah, blah. And then we find out later on that night that it's just Bell's palsy, which is a fairly common thing. It's a reaction to a viral infection somewhere in the body that causes slackness in one side of the face. So alarming, right? Your mom is showing signs of a stroke. Holy shit. But she was super calm. Now, with a person that's that high anxiety, and she does well in high-pressure situations, I was startled. And then I thought about it. Well, for 3 weeks, she's been doing high-intensity workouts between 4 and 5 nights a week. And for her, the difference was extraordinary. Yeah. Now, for me, I become irritable. I'm tired. I'm angry at myself and angry at my soreness and whatnot. That's not how my reward system works in my brain. My reward system is more short-term. People like us have a high addiction to short-term dopamine courses like social media, like camera work. You get to capture a shot. You hear that click. You get a like on your video. These are hits. Self-exposure is elicits a dopamine response. So I guess where I was getting at with the whole dopamine thing is, so Julia works out, she's tired, she breaks down her body, and that kind of gets rid of some of that anxious energy.
Also, body rewards it with dopamine.
100%.
There's releases of dopamine from working out.
Yes. I think for some people more than others.
People get really addicted to it. I just don't get dopamine from that.
No, it does nothing
miserable
for me.
to me.
It is utterly miserable. Now, that said, I love hiking. But for me, hiking is just this constant small movement that eventually rewards me with a fantastic view.
That's exactly what I'm good at. That's what I love.
Oh, yeah, same.
Long exposure to small, miserable, like I can just get in a zone. And then when I get to where I'm going, or I get some fresh water, or, the dopamine, the rush of accomplishment, the sense of accomplishment.
Now, the harder you work for something, the more of that dopamine you get, right?
Yeah.
So,
which is why I like big goals, big, hard, achievable things.
Yes, and why you do incredibly difficult things that you don't fully understand.
Yeah.
And also, in my opinion, so I drink a lot. I stay up late a lot. I think, now I've done this since I was a kid. I think a large portion of just my anatomy, my biology encourages me to stay up late. And, if you think about it, like way back in the day when we were just a bunch of tribes of people just roaming around, there had to be somebody for the night shift. We didn't just all fall asleep at 6 p.m. and then wake up at, 6 a.m. Somebody had to be around to watch for fucking lions in the dark, right?
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Like, looking away is very distracting.
No, it's
go ahead. No, I'm still listening.
No, so I think it's absolutely ridiculous. This is one of the problems that I have with we have one of the reward systems that our culture encourages, and cultures worldwide, but specifically American individualistic culture. Now, we're called an individualistic culture, and yet our comparative worth is an obsession. We compare ourselves to others, whether it's things, people, constantly. And it's really it's sad, really, at the end of the day. Now, you're looking at your ADHD, for instance, as a strength, which is a great positive reframe, and it is.
I know, I understand the strength, but I also understand the weakness.
Yes.
Which is very important.
In a corporate environment, in a structured environment that you yourself did not build, ADHD is a weakness, right?
I have to think about the way you're thinking about it. Well, it depends on, are you just playing a role, or are you trying to build something for yourself by building something for the company? Like, what I'm saying? I'm an opportunist. I'm a guy that says, I can build a business inside of a business, is the way I see it. I'm just built that way. I can't help it. So,
an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. It's how I grew up. Since I was a baby, my parents were hustlers.
But I think you have, so that's a way that you have turned ADHD to your strengths, in my opinion, is that, even when I asked you the question, how do you operate?
If I worked for a company and I produced a part, production. I tried production. I went to a company in Manchester and I worked there for 4 days, and I left. I was fucking miserable. It was the longest 4 days of my life. And I left on lunch one day because my dad had fired me. And I was 18 years old. My dad fired me because I literally swept dirt under a rug.
Yeah.
Literally. I was, it was nighttime, want to go meet some girls. I sweep the freaking dirt under the rug. It's like, I'll get it tomorrow. I was in such a hurry. I ran. I barely locked the store up. My parents owned grocery stores at the time, gas stations. And my dad caught it and fired me. And I was like, fuck it, I'll get a real job. I went to a factory and I put door panels together for a company called M-Tech.
I worked for a door factory too.
Well, they made door panels for cars, for automobile cars.
Yeah, mine was like house doors.
It was fascinating. I did enjoy it for a couple of days because there was so much that stimulated my brain.
The mechanics of it.
So much going on. But then after doing this repetitive motion, I can't believe it lasted 4 days. I left one day on lunch and I was sitting there eating lunch at my parents' store and I was like, I'm not fucking going back. I'm going to college. And boom, that week I enrolled into Motlow. But yeah, so I see what you're saying. When you're talking about a production, no. I would probably, I've never been suicidal, but I could imagine that would probably, I'd probably kill myself. As a matter of fact, I'm suffering from it now. The work I do is repetitive, and I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I had a moment today that just the videos I'm making, I can't fucking do it anymore. I just cannot do it. I don't want to go into it too much, but I'm telling you, I'm really fucking struggling because I've created a factory that's just mass producing this bullshit product that people think is amazing. And maybe it is, but I can't keep doing it over and over. I feel like it's literally an assembly line of videos. But but I've tried to develop a product that was scalable because I can't scale art. I can't teach someone the art. You can't teach someone. It'd be like you could teach me how to paint that painting, but then make me do it over and over and over and over and over. I'd kill myself. It'd be horrible. Like that's not art. You're just reproducing, whatever. And so that's ultimately what I had to build. I had to design a product that could be reproduced by other people. And I'm right there. I'm ready to let other people do that is what my goal is. I'm not going to go into details, but hey, am I quiet, by the way?
No, you sound good.
Okay. Maybe I'm deaf. But anyways.
Profit-oriented and goal-oriented are issues, in my opinion.
Profit-oriented.
So a profit-oriented or a goal-oriented mindset is not, in my opinion, natural for most people. Yeah. I think that people can just sort of suck it up and just sort of dive into that and be okay with it. Not really okay with it. I mean,
which part? You're talking about separating two different things, profit or goal. Well, these are two different people, right?
Well, the goal depends on the culture, right? Depends on the culture within your family, within your head, and within the society that you live, right? So in America, it's pretty difficult to isolate yourself from the profit-driven aspects of society. It's capitalism, You have one goal, and that goal is to make money. And, you might kid yourself.
Okay, go ahead.
You might kid yourself and say that your goal is comfort or family or any of these other things. But at the end of the day, those are just distractions to distract you from the fact that you are doing one thing over and over again, just for money, just to live with some degree of comfort that you might have attained for yourself and your family.
I mean, this is something I think a lot about.
Which is depressing.
This is something I do think a whole lot about.
Oh, same.
Man, capitalism and communism and socialism and all these isms. And then, I mean, we could go into any of those. Those are all fascinating conversations. And I think I've got to a point that I've learned that you mentioned tribalism. I wrote it down. And I have figured out, I mean, it doesn't matter what so I'm all about the why. So I invest all my effort into why, not symptoms, right? People diagnose symptoms. No, that's a waste of time. You don't treat symptoms. People do. It's a waste of fucking time. You got to find out what those symptoms are being generated from, then generated from a root cause, whether you're talking about health or you're talking about, mental relationships, jobs, the world. And we're really bad about treating symptoms. Like that's what
treating symptoms is profitable in the long run. If you fix the cause, then there's no return business. And
I won't. There's so many things. Like at one point in my life, I thought capitalism is the greatest. It's feeding 7.5 billion people. I mean, on some levels, but also,
but at the expense of starving and stealing and making other people homeless. Let's take the housing market real quick.
It's complicated. That's complicated. I want to say though, I can trace all of it back to tribalism. Like we're getting into some really complicated things, and you go so fast. I can't jump from topic to topic.
No
we could talk about one of these and spend a year. And that's where I really, I guess that's what I'm really good at, hyper-focusing on one thing and then taking that all the way back to, okay, that makes sense. I can accept that.
To get the gist of it?
Okay. To understand why. Like, I don't know how to turn that part of me off. Like, I just can't.
Why do you need to? because in the current system,
I don't. It's actually the only reason why we have spoken languages. It's the only reason why there are 7.5 billion people, because we're the only species that's ever existed on this planet that we know of that ever asked why.
Can I cut you off for just a second? Talking about species, and I'm going to tie it back into tribalism as well. There's a book that I read recently that's been recommended forever and ever and ever. It's called Sapiens, like Homo sapiens. And it's by a guy, last name Harari. He's from the Middle East. He's a professor at a very prestigious university that I can't quite recall. And this book, which was translated into English in 2014, is based on a series of lectures that he did. And it basically covers like the last several 100,000 years of human evolution. And I say evolution not necessarily from a scientific point of view, though he does cover that. He covers many aspects of many things from many different directions. He covers why we are where we are when we started, or even just from a point in time where humans started, just arbitrarily. And one of those reasons, there's tribalism, there's reasons, and there are a lot of theories out there. We've all heard like little bits of information, little sound bites, like people shouldn't have more than 26 relationships, right? Well, that's 26 individual relationships, but within the context of, like, let's say you have a group
Who
of.
says that?
Some people do. People like simplicity. The simple lie always wins out over the complex truth, and I'll go over that in just a second. But basically, within a group of 50 individuals, you have tens of thousands of relationships, because each relationship has its own context to every other relationship, right? So you can't have just like 50 individual relationships unless they don't know each other. But in small groups, it's very hard to achieve. Now, for large groups are by and large impossible, unless there are certain things that will progress humanity past those many tribalistic aspects of their brain. And one of those things that Mr. Harari covers in his book Sapiens is a shared fiction. I cannot make it important enough that is something that has just really brought me comfort recently. A shared fiction exists when, for instance, words, like you said. And one of the issues that I have with all of these isms that you mentioned, and I also like to distill things. In fact, I said, you get the gist. Gist is actually derived from the Dutch word from yeast, basically, which is referencing distillation. So it literally means to break apart and bring things down to their simplest form.
Render it.
Yes, spirits. That's what alchemists were all trying to achieve. They would run things through alembic still and try to make that vapor happen. And that vapor was what they thought was the ghost, the essential spirit of the thing. And alchemists back in the day, back in ancient Mesopotamia, discovered a large portion of our periodic table of elements through trying to find and distill the spirit of something. And that's important, because alchemists were trying to simplify and focus these problems that they had. Now, they did have a goal. Sometimes it was the Philosopher's Stone. Sometimes it was the quote-unquote pursuit of knowledge, which was generally referencing their comparative reputation with their peers and who might be disappointed or proud of them, or whatever the culture's ideology was at the time. Like in Athens, it was all about wisdom and rhetoric and just seeming as intelligent as possible and being a master debater, as it were. Now, this all comes back to a shared fiction that I mentioned. The shared fiction is something that will progress a species beyond the limitations that it has as far as tribalism is concerned. So one of the easiest, on-the-nose examples of that is religion, right? So religion is, I'm going to call it a shared fiction, and that's only because it's very difficult to believe that of the 3,500 religions that are out there,
anyone's right.
Anyone's right. Now,
I say if anyone's right, we're all screwed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I mean, like, they all have recurring themes. Yeah. So let's even take it away from the easy shot, which is religion. The harder shot is words. So we have a memory associated with every word that we know. It starts off with, counting. 1 equals 1 log, rock, whatever, 1 object within my line of vision. And I'm going to associate this number in my head with 1. And then, you branch off into math. I'm going to associate this food, this bitter flavor, with poison. Turtles do that. They spend a long time just like, they'll take a bite of a flower and then think about it, because they have incredibly sensitive tongues. And they can detect what plants may or may not be poisonous based on the effect of a microdose. It's fascinating. It's something that humans took.
Microdose, yeah. Well, that's how we got here.
Yeah, it is.
Or they had someone in the tribe that they were willing to sacrifice.
Also, yes. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times those were, those were the shamans, walking around with bags of mushrooms and weed and, what have you, like all sorts of crazy shit. But the shared fiction is a very important thing to most people. For some people, most people have like one singular fiction that drives them, and it's usually one that's taught to them, sometimes something that was learned. And more often than not, it's a way to cope, again, with reality and with the fact that humans, we've come a long way, but we have not come far enough to be able to live peacefully with each other.
No, I agree. Yeah, well, that's what I keep telling everybody. We haven't evolved. Why do I sound so fucking quiet? He sounds loud to me, and I sound quiet.
It might be a projection thing.
I don't know. I mean, I can hear you fine. Anyways, okay. What you said something to say? What did you say? What you just said?
Tribalism, shared fiction.
Okay, no. So I keep telling everybody, utopia sounds amazing, but we're about 10,000 years away from that being a possibility because we're still evolving as a species. So I'm not mad at anybody because people are literally just trying to figure it out. People are just trying to feed a family. They're just trying to. Ultimately, people just want to be loved. You know, people just want to be happy. Like, but we glorify as a society the wrong things. We glorify fiction way too much. The movie stars and you know what I mean. These are
the simple lie.
We glorify as a society the wrong thing, and it's our fault. We look at the news. The news is shit. Why is the news shit? Because people are buying it. That's what people want to watch. People want conflict, climax, resolution. I thought about it a lot. Why were the Roman Colosseums built? Oh, I'm sorry, the Roman Colosseum. I thought, why was this built? And it's just a theory that I have that human beings don't do well when things are good for too long. They start generating their own conflict
100%.
within themselves. And you see it within a school, within a tribe. I break everything down as a tribe. A house is a tribe. That house is in a community. That's a tribe. That community is within a state. It's really fucking weird how all of us love each other. We're all friends, but then Tennessee, Alabama, and I don't get into sports. But I can see these tribes, right, hate each other all of a sudden. And it seems so silly to me. But I realized, oh shit, maybe it's important. Because we're such maybe because we still have so much evolution to go. Why did the Roman Colosseum, why was it built? Because there was nothing going on. And I think that there started being chaos within the system. I think the system probably started breaking itself down because people just like fucking drama. They love conflict. So why not build this Roman Colosseum and create gladiators and let's live vicariously through these gladiators. Like we can get all that emotion out by watching this quarterback or, you know what? I think that's the importance of sports because I used to not see much value in it. And then I started thinking, hold on, maybe it's keeping a society from destroying itself, right? Maybe it's keeping a society from completely melting down and flipping the hierarchy. That's actually is, whether we like it or not, somehow feeding 7 billion people. And anyways, those are the things.
It's not.
Well,
there are how many people are starving?
But we're still going. You know, like it just keeps going and we keep producing and it worries me. You know what I mean?
You know why? Because you're an intelligent person with common sense. Newton's second law of thermodynamics states that an isolated system based on endless growth is unsustainable. Yeah. The entropy within an isolated system, the randomness, will only increase.
It will, but I also believe in balance. That painting back there, the yin yang back there. And that painting there is about balance too. But I believe in more than one type of balance. People think of balance as a seesaw, equal and opposing forces, symmetry. And then I learned what asymmetry is through photography. I learned what I think that type of balance, there's more than one type. There's harmony is what I call, it's just what I call it. Harmony is balance, right? It's music and it's everything in life. I think that's how the world works. I don't think the world is half good, half evil. That wouldn't be balanced. That would be terrible. It wouldn't be very sustainable. We would have not grown into 7.5 billion people. I think of the world as being asymmetrical, a more of a harmonious, like a little bit of evil, right, is just enough to balance out a whole lot of good.
Hell yeah, it is.
And that's why the yin yang is so important. Once I finally understood why it was shaped that way, it was fascinating. I started thinking, oh shit, this explains so many things. But anyways, going back to it, I'm not mad at any one person. I think a lot about how someone like Hitler could have came along, or and I'm not glorifying any of these people either. Like I try to understand how this could have happened, and there was an imbalance. I thought about this. I had this fucking idea. I was like, oh shit, I figured out the root cause of every problem that's ever existed and going to exist. Why did it break? An imbalance. Now, that's a cheap way to get to the answer. The question is, an imbalance of what?
But you have to see it as broken first.
Oh, everything's... Well, I mean, shit. It's still... Like, it's complicated, man.
It is complicated.
Like, it's really, really complicated.
So that's the problem.
But how did Hitler probably come to power? And I'm not saying I've studied that side of culture, but I started thinking, oh shit, it's
shared
very
fiction.
imbalanced,
It was a shared fiction. He did a few things very right. Like
but what would have pushed him? What could have pushed a human being to the point that he seen other human beings as a subspecies, something that wasn't even worthy? Trauma, yeah. Well, also probably a lot of imbalance in the culture, or
it was
maybe
also
the Jewish.
self-loathing. He was almost half Jewish.
Yeah. Well, I started
Humans
thinking
have an innate drive towards self-destruction, in my opinion. I think nature does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially when things are good.
Yeah.
9/11 happens. We're all happy. We're all working together. Like, it's weird how.
For like 48 hours.
Yeah, it didn't last long.
But there has to be a scapegoat.
Okay. There has to be a scapegoat.
Who was the scapegoat with 9/11?
Yeah.
Everybody of a certain culture and mostly a certain state that wasn't even involved.
Well, that's why I don't. I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, but false flags.
Yeah.
Right.
The simple lie.
It's gotta happen. It's like, are we smart enough that we have to self-sabotage? I self-sabotage constantly.
Yes.
I know how to motivate myself. Like, I was talking to somebody today, and I was like, if I could just lose it all, if I could just go broke, like flat broke, and lose it all, it would be the best thing that ever happened to me. I feel like it's the reason why I still struggle with everyday things, and I haven't got to a point. It's because I don't know what rock bottom looks like. I have no idea, and I always joke around, well, rock bottom's a great place to build. And anyways, I know I won't self-sabotage that much because I have kids and my wife, but I do self-sabotage to a point that I force myself into doing work or chores that I didn't want to do. Financially, I'll self-sabotage a lot,
So there's a famous psychologist who was a mentee of his mentor, Freud.
God, we skimmed a bunch of shit, though, by the way.
Oh, anything you want to...
No, I don't even know if I could. People may even have a hard time, like, what the fuck are they talking about?
It's all right.
But I don't care. It's our conversation.
Two things. First of all, Carl Jung pioneered the idea of paradigms, right? And a paradigm it's a difficult thing to simplify, but basically like the lens through which you view reality, right? And he said that a paradigm could only be broken through crisis. Now, a crisis is something that he defined as something major. So like, for instance, we've got this whole pandemic thing going on, the coronavirus and all that jazz. COVID-19. And a lot of people are looking at that as the scapegoat, as the evil, the great thing to unify against. The problem is it's not destructive enough.
No, I don't know anybody.
In order to achieve balance.
Like, everyone is waiting. It's like it's always in some other town. Like, every town is saying, no, it's not here. It's coming here, though. And we're all waiting on it to kill my grandmothers and my children and my friends and everybody that's had it. It's nothing. And I don't even want to go into that because all you're going to do is piss off a lot of people, which honestly I don't give a shit. It's an easy way to weed people out. Sensitive people, they don't need to be listening to this anyways. But I don't want to be controversial just to be controversial. So there's some things I probably just whatever. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So the crisis, did you ever watch the movie Watchmen?
Yes, but I don't remember it. They weren't superheroes. They were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were.
They were?
Some of them were. Basically, the crux of the Watchmen was that one hero had to be the scapegoat, and millions of people had to die. Like, a bunch of major cities were effectively bombed, and it made it look like this one hero, this one guy, Dr. Manhattan, killed them all. And at the end of it, one of his most famous quotes is, "Without condoning or condemning, I understand." And he was saying that he understood why he did what he did. And it was funny because he was talking to the quote-unquote smartest man alive, Ozymandias, who was just a raging narcissistic asshole who redeemed himself in the show, even though Alan Moore, the author, never approved of any of this. But notorious angry wizard Alan Moore, I might add. But anyway, long story short, basically the simple lie was that this God killed a bunch of people, and so he was the enemy. It's the Red Scare. It's Hitler and the Jews. It's everyone hating one specific thing that justifies their entire existence. I'm okay because I know who the bad guy is, and it's not me. And that's one of the simple lies. So Carl Jung's idea of a paradigm shift occurring only through crisis, you can't crack that lens and focus on anything else. You can't move it unless it's fucking broken, unless you destroy a ton of stuff. So the problem is, and again, we're not going to get into kill rates because that just incenses people for some reason, but unless like 30, 40, maybe even 60 or 70% of the human population on this earth dies, it's not going to change course anytime soon. It's just not going to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
However,
that's what
hope is a big deal to a lot of people, and it's what keeps them going. And I don't want to remove that for them. It's just not a source of comfort for me.
Like, I got to tell you, I mean, I'm not. I love simplicity. I would love the idea of a utopic tribal. You know what I mean? Utopias really only exist in small groups of like 6 or 7, maybe maximum, because there's no leader. It's all based on respect. But the moment you have someone that has to be in charge, once the group gets too big, like monkeys, they can't have more than 70 in a troop. After 70, they fraction. It'll create chaos, and it just creates chaos. And then within, so what they do is after about 70, they break off and they start forming other troops, and that's how they maintain balance. Right? It's what's needed to balance. What I love about balance just happens. Has nothing to do with us. Like we're not in control of it. We don't get to choose. I see. Oh God, this is a complicated idea. But we're talking about something. I think that the world just is this, like almost like a hive mind. I think that
everything's connected.
Yeah, everything's connected, and I see the pendulum do this. This pendulum swings left, the pendulum swings right, but it always comes back to center eventually, you know. And I'm just stopped worrying about it. I stopped watching the news, and I started pulling myself away from everything and stop listening to the right and stop listening to the left, because I realized, okay, this is a good analogy. This is mine. I say it's a good analogy. This is the one I wanted to share with you. I think of us as an airplane. I think the left and the right are both equally important only because of what we are as a species and to what point we are in our evolution. We're still very primitive, right? We still have an ego. And I think of an ego, I think until we evolve out of our ego, which is that thing that's there to represent all of my insecurities, what does he or she think of me? The choices I make in life are usually my ego playing a video in my head that's not even fucking real. It never existed, but my ego is telling me, you're a loser. They think you are. Like you go back and forth. It's like this thing. An ego can play tennis by itself. It runs from one side of the court to the other, volleying this ball back and forth.
You have to limit yourself.
Well, we just have that thing inside of us, this insecurity. Point is, I don't want to fuck this up, but I think for right now, the left and the right are both important, just like wings of a plane. Right? You got to have a left wing, got to have a right wing. You may have heard, I don't know, this is my analogy. But to make this fucker fly, you got to have both wings. But the problem is, I think this is what happens. We want to keep everybody in the fucking plane. But once somebody goes out on the wing, right, somebody's got to go out on this fucking wing. And then you got these groups of people that are out the fucking edge and they can't hear each other. And it's me sitting in, let's say you're right wing or left wing. You sit in the right seat. I'll sit in the right seat. You sit in the left seat, right? You see, I think of myself as having conservative values with liberal ideas, progressive ideas. You know, I'm rooted in my values.
Progress is an important word.
Yeah. So I think of myself as having progressive ideas, but I don't want to force them. I think let things happen naturally, right? Don't force things because it can fucking tip the scale, right? Chaos starts. You see what's happening. The fucking world's going crazy right now because everybody is out on the furthest fringe, and like the further you go, the further they go. Now nobody's going to communicate. I think what we have to do is those of us that are sitting here watching this fucking happen, the world burning, it's fascinating to me. But I think instead of me trying, let's say I'm sitting in the right seat, instead of me trying to convince the people in the left wing to come in, I should be talking to my buddies that, you know what I mean? Say, hey, come here. Shh, we got to come here. Let's stop fighting them. Let's come back to center just a little bit more, right, till we can have a fucking conversation. And it's polarizing, right? No one communicates. No one knows how to be objective. Everyone's subjective, right? To their emotions, their feelings. And it's so polarizing right now. And that's glorified. We fucking glorify it. It's mind-blowing. Like the way people communicate in the media is really hostile, and they're teaching people how to communicate. I look at old school news. Oh, what's the goal? I think to fucking burn it all down is what they're trying to do.
Of the media, what's the goal?
It's profit. It's all fucking profit.
Yep.
It's all profit.
Bingo.
So, and look, this is what everybody's thinking.
And notice
everybody's like, people think about Fox News, right, as being this right-wing news station. Fox News is a profitable company, and it sees a void, and it's filling that void. It's there to take up for the right. It doesn't give a shit about your fucking views, just like the left is there to fill that void. And I'm saying, I was thinking about this. What happens if we do have a third party? What really happens if there is a third idea, this independent thing?
You mean a viable one? Because there are multiple other parties in the
US.
but
but why don't they stick? Because it's imbalanced. I'm wondering if I don't know if it can happen. I just don't know if human beings are capable of allowing that to happen. I think if you get a little too far right, people start moving to the left. And if you get a little too far left, people start moving to the right. And I say, quit fucking worrying. Everything's going to balance out. Like, we just don't need to feed it anymore. Let's just chill the fuck out. It's going to, you can't control it. Like, it's fascinating to me to sit here and be like, I have friends on the right. I have friends on the left. And man, if you get too far on either side, you see people on the left eating the left. You get what I'm saying? It's fascinating to me that people that are liberal are now, if you're not liberal enough, well, now you're fucking conservative, right wing. It's like, holy shit, you guys, we going too far here. Let's just calm down. And we're all getting conned, and people are, what I'm saying is they're subjective, right, to their emotion. People are making decisions based on emotion. That is the worst fucking idea of all time. If you feel anything, I've taught myself this trick. Especially, I think I maybe have learned it by being a parent. I learned not to discipline my children. I learned not. Okay, I didn't want to be a liar.
You're framing discipline in the context of your culture and how you were raised to think about discipline.
Well, I don't know if I was. I think it was. I didn't want to tell my kid, if you do that again, I'm going to whip your ass, or I'm going to ground you for a week, because it was so important for me. If I say I'm going to do something, I can't be a liar. My word is all that I have at the end of the day. So I had this idea that truth was all that mattered. Truth was all that mattered. So
why?
Don't, because it's something, it's all you got. Integrity at the end of the day. If you don't believe what's coming out of my mouth, it's going to be very difficult to build something together. And I think it's really the core value of why my family is so happy, that it's the only rule. Okay, for instance, this morning, my son, I said, did you brush your teeth? He's 12. 11? How old is he? Yeah, he's 12. He said, yeah. I said, well, let's double check. Let's see how you're doing with your teeth brushing. I go up there, I feel of his toothbrush, it's dry. My little Landon never lies to me. It blew my mind.
Yes, he does.
I said, Landon, let me tell you, man, I'm not mad. I said, if you're willing to lie about brushing your teeth, you're willing to lie about some pretty complicated things. Like, if I can't trust you here, I don't think I can trust you anywhere. I mean, I said, the only thing in life that matters to me is the truth. Like, is saying things that, like, admitting to things that could get you in trouble. You know what I mean? If you can lie about that, then you can lie to yourself. You can go into denial, and that's a very dangerous thing. If you're capable of lying to yourself, then you're never going to get anywhere in life. So just being honest. What I'm trying to say is,
I would disagree.
Okay, write it down. I'm trying to, what was I saying? Balance.
If you're willing to lie to yourself, you'll never get anywhere.
But I got that. I was talking about Landon. Anyways, just the importance of being honest. What I was trying to say was emotions. I just told myself I'm never going to discipline the kids if I'm upset, because I would have made threats that at the end of the day I wouldn't have been able to follow through on, right? And then I would have been a liar. Like, I want it to be honest. So happy, sad, mad, angry, doesn't fucking matter. If I feel any emotions, I make no commitments, right? I have to wait to calm the fuck down. Maybe that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If I'm pissed off, I don't want to talk to you, because nothing good's going to, don't force me into a conversation, because nothing nice is going to come out of my mouth, because I can't choose how I feel. We don't get to choose how we feel. We get to choose how we act, or whether we react. And a reaction is a response with an emotional connotation, is what I call it. We're allowed to respond, which is, no, we can't do this right now, right? But a reaction is, go fuck yourself, right? So I'm saying that I've learned this trick, and I think people have got to learn to fucking wait 10 minutes. The texting, I think, is the worst thing. Cell phones are horrible for our society. We weren't prepared for instant access. I feel something, here's what I feel.
Could we ever have been?
We're evolving. Like, it's amazing. I look at history, and it's pretty incredible what we have achieved in 100 years. I mean, look, it was violent, man. It was fucking violent. I look at the Civil War, and families were killing each other. It's mind-blowing how fast we have grown. And now we're here, and we're like, we want it now. Everything's got to be civil. And it's like, hold on. Listen, fuckface. 20 years ago, it was cool. It was okay to be bullied. Like it was like people tell you, oh, you're gonna get toughened up that way. You know what I'm saying? Spankings were healthy when I was a kid, and now I'm starting to realize, oh no, they're actually unnecessary. If you're honest, the reason why I never had to spank my kids is because when I said this is the consequence, they knew it. That's what I'm saying. That's how I evolved out of spanking my children, is because if I ever said this was what the consequence would be, they knew I wasn't lying. And it was like, holy shit. So I think all that kind of happened because of I learned not to react. I learned how to respond, wait to calm down until I made a decision, because I look at timeshares as a good example. Right, they play on your emotions. Mm-hmm. You look at anything. You look at anything that we were watching Wolf of Wall Street yesterday or day before, whatever it was, and you just see how you're getting sold. You hear these people playing on your dopamine and serotonin and adrenaline, and they figured out key words and they know how to use their energy. And people tell me all the time, "Oh, you should be a motivational speaker," but they're kind of a con man.
Oh,
like
entirely.
You know what I mean? I ain't saying you can't help somebody, but if you're just trying to get them hyped up for that moment, to get them to buy a ticket to your show or whatever, they think, look, man, you're tricking them. You're being manipulated. And if you feel any emotion whatsoever, don't make a decision. Don't buy a timeshare. It seems like the greatest idea of all time. Don't take a job. Don't quit a job. Don't whip your kids. Don't say I do. Don't do shit. If I feel anything, wait. A day, a month, as long as I feel something, I'm out. I'm not going to invest any effort into that. And I think that's the problem with the news. Everybody is subjective. They're basing their decisions and their thoughts and the words that are coming out of their fucking mouth based on their emotion. And I thought, was the media ever unbiased? I think it was at one time. I think
Everything
it's the
is
hardest
biased.
thing in the world. I think the hardest thing in the world for a human being is to be unbiased.
Yes. Well, I would argue that it's impossible.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's a cycle.
I see a judge. Right? A judge is supposed to be unbiased. It's like
The concept
are
of
we
a judge
full
is
of
hilarious.
But man, it's fucking hard.
It's impossible.
I know. I mean, we have a very flawed. I mean, man. I guess we're everybody needs to chill the fuck out. We just haven't evolved. I say we're 10,000 years away from what we're wanting.
Okay, can I cut in?
Yeah.
So let's say you exist on an island, right?
Okay.
And you eventually will get the technology or the knowledge or whatever it's passed down, whatever. You eventually become able to see, visit, or just in general be aware of other islands with other people. Up until now, it's just been you on your island with your tribe. Mm-hmm. So let's say you find one other island. There's going to be strife at first, right? There's going to be some conflict. There's going to be some negotiations that have to be made. And then you're good. What happens when a third island appears? What happens when a fourth island appears? Right? What if these other islands?
I don't know. Tell me what happens. I mean, I don't want to guess. What do you think happens?
Well, I mean, it's like you said. Once a tribe gets too big, it starts to split off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have 35, you said 70 primates earlier. So you have 35 people on one island. They discover another island. It's 70 people. There might be a little bit of strife, but they could probably coexist. But then they discover another island full of 35 people. Well, that's where you become an issue. So I want to touch on the fact that you said right versus left, and that's a very, 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 very big and prevalent issue in American politics. Mm-hmm. And like you said, another very prevalent issue in American politics is that the left eats the left. Now, the context is what is important, Nathan. Now, the context of that is that within the American context, there's right and left. But as compared to literally the rest of the world, including, and I hate to say it, but France coined the terms right and left, and it was literally in reference to the sides of a river, one side of which contained the aristocracy. And France for millennia believed in the divine right of kings, which means that you're born or not. It's a quiet caste system, more or less. Like you're born into kinghood or not. And if you are born into kinghood, it's divine. It's meant to be. This is what we believe. Get over it. But pretty much overnight, that first initial French Revolution coined the terms right and left because the right, and also, I don't know if this is, I don't know the context of this exactly, but it seems hard to mistake as coincidence that the right side of the river was very organized, very geometric, whereas the left side of the river was winding and random and lots of different shit going on, lots of disorganization and chaos. But the left won in the end of the day, so to speak. And obviously France is still on fire half the time. So, take that for what you will. But my point, Nathan, is that context is very important. Up until very recently, within the last 20 years, like you said, a little bit longer than that, of course, the internet didn't exist. Mm-hmm. We weren't aware of all of the other islands, or if we were aware of them, they were filtered. They were filtered through the media. They were filtered through very few points of access. Well, nowadays, the internet's too fucking big. And as much as, we are filtered through the internet.
It's almost more filtered now. I think the internet, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was thinking, oh my God, the internet's amazing. We can have instant access. Now we don't believe in anything.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Like literally, we can see it on our cell phone. I can watch this video. And it was manipulated. Or we think it was manipulated because there's so many con men. People are out there on both fucking sides trying to manipulate and make the other one look bad. And it's fucking... I just don't invest in it at all on either side.
I think that's wise. But the point I was trying to make that I keep skipping over, sorry, is that America, comparatively to the rest of the world, and specifically other parts of the world that are, more or less prevalent in as far as they affect the rest of the world, like England, France, all of these other places. America, our version of Democrats versus Republicans, the right versus the left, our left is pretty fucking right as far as the rest of the world is considered.
Oh, no. See, I think of myself as being a liberal, not a leftist, right? I don't think of myself as a right-wing person because I think that's why I said I have conservative values like honesty, integrity, and I don't think that is a left or right. No, I think I don't say in a person. I think everybody is left and right. I think they all are. And I think you're insane if you think that you're not because you have very conservative values in a lot of ways. I mean, just being a good person, that's a conservative value, not taking something that doesn't belong to you. And I think we've been taught that you either here or here. No, you're on both sides, but do your views I think we've chosen, we don't have the dialect or words that maybe can describe what I'm trying to say.
Well, communication is the most important aspect of all this.
Yeah, words have meaning and value, but
that meaning differs. The context is important.
That's why the word the other night was hustle. And I said, well, you got to look up the word then because he felt it was taken advantage of. But it has like 5 meanings. It means to work hard. It means, So you're right. You're very right.
Well, like secularism.
And I think...
Secularism is a word that I looked up today. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but secularism is a word that I looked up today. And I was just like, well, if I choose to use that word today, I'm curious about its actual definitive meaning. Yeah. And so I looked it up and it was just like...
I try to stay away from big words.
I know. Oh, that's very fair, sadly. So secularism in definition can mean one of a variety of things. In general, it means the preference to...
Worldly? Does it mean worldly?
It generally means a separation of action from belief.
Okay.
I would say it's probably the easiest way to...
Yeah, when you say believe... Okay, well, I hear of it, when I was a kid, they're living a very secular life. That was Christianity, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Whatever. So go ahead, sorry.
Action and belief. So if your beliefs become actionable upon others, then you cannot consider yourself to be secular. You have now become opposite. So...
action and belief, hold on. If your beliefs have now what?
If you inflict your beliefs...
If you try to force or influence your beliefs on other people, then you are or are not secular? Is that what you said?
You are not.
Okay. So it is good to be secular.
It's a matter of opinion, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I understand the root word well enough.
Well,
But I think of words as a description of an idea.
Yes.
A concept.
Yes.
And that is what it is, right?
Yes.
And so I understand. Yeah, you're right in the way we choose our words.
So if you've only ever experienced the pain of a bee sting and you've never had any other injury for the rest of your life, that bee sting is the most pain that you have ever felt.
Yep.
You might be able to conceptualize a little bit beyond that, like maybe multiple bee stings, but you could never conceptualize the pain of a broken bone.
Yep.
Right? So the issue that you have there is context. Pain is pain. It's got a very simple definition, but the relative concept of pain within the context of one's existence is the most important thing, because I cannot realize your pain, you cannot realize my pain, and that's the same with every truth and fiction that we tell each other, every experience that we've ever had. We might be able to convey it with some degree of accuracy, but what we can't convey is, I can convey to you, I saw a lion at the river last week, so maybe you shouldn't go there at the same time that I did. What I can't convey to you is what I felt in my biology when I came face to face with a fucking lion.
Yeah.
You can't feel that with me describing it.
I have no point of reference.
Zero.
Yeah.
So the issue that I have, and I want to get back to context and secularism and all that jazz, is freedom. Huge word.
Okay.
Huge word. Big deal in America. Now, at what point does one become free to hurt others?
Never.
Really?
No. Well, should not be accepted.
Okay.
I mean, so we are. No, I get what you're saying.
So would you say that you are free if you prevent other people from doing anything?
No, I think we should literally be allowed to do whatever the fuck we want.
But what if whatever
like
the
no
fuck
government?
You want?
The goal is in life. I think that we should let society choose your tribe. Like I'm completely okay with evolving to the point that they're, we have all these borders and boundaries, and I know what we're trying to do. We're trying to like maintain chaos. We're trying to like, okay, I know what we're trying to do. My goal for a perfect world would be, you do you, man. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, now that would be bad. A lot of people would die. We wouldn't have 7.5 billion people on the planet. Like, it would just be bad. But that, to me, would be a good-looking future. That, to me, is a utopia. Right? 5 people hanging out, right? We have a utopia in this room. There's no leader. We're just here out of respect. And that's why I think tribalism was so effective, because you had to produce more than you consumed in that tribe if you wanted to stay. If you wanted to reproduce, if you wanted to have offspring, you had to be a productive member of your society, which was that tribe. And anymore, you're not forced into it.
Productive is contextual, though.
Productive
is relative.
Okay, well, so when I say productive, you could consume more of someone's emotion than you produce. So, for instance, if I only come to you needing to talk to you and vent to you every time you're around, I got to talk to you, golly, this is happening in my life. Well, all I'm doing is consuming your energy. I think of energy as a currency, right? We only have so much positive and so much negative energy, and we get built up with all this negative energy. I think of these therapists that sit there and listen to all this fucking shit, man. How they don't end up killing themselves in the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can only consume so much. So anyways, I think of energy as a transaction. Constantly, we're transferring this energy, good and bad. But if I'm always this Debbie Downer, if I'm always negative every time I'm around you, all I'm doing is dumping my negative energy into you, and eventually you're going to be like, look, I can't. You'll start avoiding me, right? You know what I mean?
I like the abuse. Or I've been taught that that's normal.
I think that we just inherently just know how to navigate. You're a very selective person with your friends. So I don't know if I believe that at all, because you are not the type of person that would hang out with people unless they have earned over time to allow, you don't let people in your circle. They have to earn their way into your circle. Like, your circle's really, really small. I have a very small circle too. I think I let people think they're in my circle because I like to make people feel good about themselves. But, my circle's very, very small. Anyways, so I guess, I don't know. Fuck, I kind of lost my train of thought
there.
But
touching on what you said about how if there were only 5 or 6 people in a tribe, okay, so
it's a utopia.
Yes, what I think you're trying to achieve there is, the smaller your context, the more relative the peaks of your emotions seem.
Okay.
So how good you feel feels especially good if you've never felt any better than you do at this moment. How bad you feel. So if you limit everybody to only bee stings, then technically you've reduced all the pain in the world, but technically the relative pain still stays the same. If you remove all broken bones and all other injuries other than bee stings.
I think they're all important. I think the yin and yang, the black could be evil, the red could be good, the black could be pain, the red could be, I like what I'm going through right now is fucking miserable. But I also understand its importance. Without this, without the struggle, there is no mountain to climb. What's the point in climbing anything if you don't have to struggle? What's the point of, I value the negative as much as the positive. I just don't want to spend a whole lot of time in the bee stings and, the pain. I don't know if that has anything to do with what you're talking about, but I believe in balance. Like, I've started really, do
you believe that humans have control over that balance?
No, I think that I don't get to choose how I feel. I get to choose how long I feel that way based on the decisions I make after that. So, for instance, I'm going through a breakup. I'm not, but imagine if I was. I could sit around and feel like shit for a long time if I just sit around and listen to sad music and wallow and I just embrace that emotion. I could extend that out for, some people do, for the rest of their lives. They never get over it because they didn't start making choices in life that would allow them, because it's really fucking hard to get out of a rut. Once you're in that bitch, you can't see nothing in front of you, behind you, but you have to start saying...
An object at rest.
Yeah, an object in motion tends to stay in motion, and I think the opposite is true. An object setting still is a hard fucking thing to get moving again.
But I think we need to feel that balance.
Yes.
So an object at rest, if you're a depressed piece of shit,
you have no point of reference. Happiness wouldn't exist.
I'm a depressed piece of shit, and I'm not saying that in a pejorative, but if you are a person who is sitting at home because you're depressed about whatever, a breakup, what have you, you are probably, very likely, also beating yourself up or abusing something. So in abusing something, in beating yourself up, in wallowing in your own misery, you are still feeling autonomic arousal. You are still feeling...
You feel something.
A peak.
Yep.
Right? Whether it's... And, you might think of it as a low. That's another issue that we have, and that's something that there's a lot of TED Talks about, is the concept of negativity and emotion. Is there a negative emotion, really, at the end of the day? I think that humans seek every single emotion eventually.
Seek, or I don't even know if I seek it. I think that's why I keep saying over and over, like, we don't get to choose how we feel. Like I don't even choose the things that I think about. They're almost presented to me. And then I get to decide whether or not I want to invest in an idea, or, you say something and it triggers a process. But it wasn't my choice. It's not like I have this ability to dive deep into my brain and pull things out unless I'm searching for an answer to something that was presented to me. If that makes any sense at all. Like, okay, I don't even want to go into that. I mean, that could get fucking complicated. We're talking about emotions, feeling emotions. We're talking about. I think about this. I think that I feel bad for the kids that live in my neighborhood. Because
you live in a nice neighborhood.
Well, any neighborhood in America. Like, honestly, man, Americans, in a weird way, we have too much. Okay, what I'm saying.
Some of us have too much.
Well, I think about this little kid living in a third world country wearing, a 1972 Adidas shirt that was shipped over in a garbage bag, right? And he's got rice but this kid, the way he stimulates, the way he gets a dopamine hit or serotonin, you're right, it doesn't take much. Literally food, finding food in a dump. Oh shit, I can eat that. Like, that could be exciting. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, running a stick with a wheel. I see this little kid and he's running this like tire down with a stick, and it was a toy. And I thought, wow, like, what does it take for us to trigger that stimulation? Like, it takes a lot. I mean, a new car, a new house, a marriage. Like, it takes a whole lot for us to feel happy, right? So, okay, so this is where I like to think about.
But that's the endless growth concept. If your only goal is to keep feeling increasing amounts of happiness and never feel down, then that happiness will only continue. Like, that's an unattainable peak because it just continuously rises.
Okay, this is the good way to say it. It's easy to be unhappy. It takes zero effort whatsoever. You have to produce nothing. All you have to do is set and consume energy, food, things around you, right? If I just sat on my couch and made everybody else see, it's easy to be miserable. It's very hard to be happy.
I think both are important aspects of the human condition.
You're damn right. But I think of it like this. I think a happy life looks like, what we do is we gamble, instant high. We go out, we get laid, instant high, right? We seek very quick highs. We are taught to buy our happiness. We fucking buy all of our happiness. Right? It's fucking nuts. We buy things to put on things, like I bought my Jeep, right? You know what I'm talking about. Instant happiness. But it doesn't last very long. What does last long is a dream to climb Mount Everest, right? It takes years of planning. And every time you accomplish a goal, like you know what I'm saying? Like I have to make so much money a month to save up for this thing, and every time I accomplish that, I get a little hit of dopamine. So it's like this instant, it's this long-term goal, and that's the high that I'm trying to chase rather than an instant high, right? Because the instant high, everybody's walking around thinking they're bipolar because they're only happy for a second and they're sad right after that.
It's normal.
It's normal in our society because we don't have to work hard for things. We can get in high right now. I can get on my phone and post something and try to get 6 likes or 600 likes. You understand what I'm saying? I think it's very dangerous what we're doing. Viral success, very dangerous, right? It's too big. It's because the highs have equal lows.
Yep.
I don't want those crazy highs because those crazy lows are, whoa, I've never been that depressed. But what I've learned to do is I spend a lot more time happy. And then I've learned to spend less time unhappy. But like right where I'm at right now is very unhappy, very miserable in my life. Overwhelmed, stressed, anxiety. It's just because my goal is my work is not satisfying me. I have no dopamine hits from it. I don't even get to finish a project and feel anything. It's not a music video that I'm waiting on 1,000 people to watch. I get nothing out of life right now.
You're not stimulated enough.
No, I'm not stimulated.
That's kind of the ADHD condition, honestly.
Well, I think every human is looking for stimulation.
Every human needs stimulation. Some need it more than others.
Oh, I agree.
Some need it more immediately or over a longer period of time.
We were talking about something I was going to say that to what degree? So we were talking about you are or aren't. I don't believe in that concept anymore.
No.
You are everything, but to what degree? Scared? From here to here. 0 to 10, right? You on a scale. To what degree are you scared?
It's relative.
Yeah. And are you narcissistic? Are you mean? Are you happy? Like that's to
But that's
what
all
degree?
relative and comparative to other people, and that's the
Are
problem.
you right or left? No, you aren't. You are to some degree on that pendulum. You know what I mean? Pendulum, is that the word? Pendulum?
That's the original word you use.
Pendulum. What's the fuck?
Plain
pendulum. Yeah.
wings.
You know that dial. So sometimes you lean more to left. You know what I mean? Okay, so I had this idea about what alpha and beta is, right? And everybody thinks of it as a male thing. Oh, he's an alpha. Oh, he's a beta, right? No, it's a beautiful thing that I think alpha and beta is a state of mind. It's to what degree you believe in something or yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think that you can go from alpha to beta in a moment.
But both are false.
When I say, okay, well, what was the word terminology you used?
Context?
Context. I don't think of it. I think to what degree you believe in something. Are you easily swayed on this concept? So it could be dating. You could lean a little more subjective. You could be more subjected to other people's opinion. I think of that as a beta way of thinking, meaning I'm just not confident in that. And I think I go through life, some things I feel like a beta on, some things I feel like an alpha on.
That's a comparative mindset that I think is problematic, honestly.
Really?
Yes.
Give me an example.
Well, an example is I would compare the concept.
Do you even believe in the idea of alpha, beta?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I believe that they're both pieces of the Greek alphabet that follow each other directly, and neither has anything to do with the last letter in the alphabet, which is zeta, right? Okay. So, like, you're thinking alpha and beta, which means you're thinking somebody comes in first and somebody comes in second, right?
I don't think of it that way.
Okay. Then
I don't think of it as a hierarchy. Mm-hmm. I think of it as I believe. I'm not sure.
In yourself?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's only yourself. That's all you have to believe in. You know, I mean, you can believe in other ideas, but like, how confident do I feel about this? If I'm really confident, you can think of it as whatever, right? Okay, so I always use the example, like, in the ring, I may not be the alpha. This guy's probably worked his way up to where he's at. He's very confident he's going to kick my ass.
But you could look out.
Pardon?
You could look out.
Look out?
Look. What if a guy gets struck by lightning?
Yeah. But I agree. But to what degree does he believe he's going to kick my ass? Right? I believe his state of mind is much more alpha than mine. I'm probably not even going to try to compete. But it could be
that's a falsehood.
It could be the same guy, right? We could try to pick up a girl, right?
Sure.
A lot. I would be better in that scenario than he may be, right? So maybe
Depends on the girl.
It depends on the girl, but it also depends on, to what degree do you believe in yourself for that thing? You can't believe in yourself for everything, right? You can't be great at everything, but like some things I'm really good at, I feel very confident with. Other things I don't. There's plenty of things like believing in myself, like the work I put out. I'm very nervous about it. I don't really believe in myself enough to put it out. So that's a beta way of thinking. I should start believing in myself. You used to try to get me to all the time. If you don't understand your own value, no one else will. That resonated with me from that point on. You understand what I mean? Does that make sense? But you seen something in me that my ego kept shutting me down, saying, no, you can't charge that much. No.
Why?
Because my ego, I was nervous. I was a beta way of thinking.
No, I see.
Well, that's my terminology. That's how I've tried to say, okay, people believe in alpha, beta, but hold on, it's to what degree? And I don't think you should think of yourself as an alpha or a beta. It's to what degree do you believe in yourself or what you think on this particular topic, subject. That's all I'm trying to say. That's how I think about it. So the whole point of that was to say, yes, you are. No matter what you think, am I this or am I that? You are, but to what degree is how I look at everything. That balance thing.
Well, it's simple. You are or you are not. You're alive or dead. And either way.
I don't know if you are.
Well,
that's a whole other thing. I don't know if I believe that anymore.
Yeah, sure.
I think of energy.
Well, it comes down to the base elements, right? Most of the concepts that we talk about, all the isms, all the attachments, like if you attach the concept of alpha to something and the concept of beta to something else, if they're not inclusive of each other, then you've already split you've already made a molecule out of atoms, or what's the better way of putting that? So the fact that everything exists, insofar as we can conceptualize that, the fact that everything exists could be considered like the crux of it all, right? So there's a periodic table of elements, even though we can split the atom, so that calls into question the entire concept of elements. If quarks exist, what if there's something smaller than quarks that we just can't perceive yet? because we don't have the technology, So like we keep trying to distill information further and further and further down, and yet we still allow ourselves the problems of comparison and the problems of me getting angry because somebody else has questioned my reality. And I think that is a huge issue with a lot of people.
You getting angry because someone has questioned your reality?
Yes.
What would you consider your reality? Like whether or not you exist, you living in a matrix?
It could be anything, Like if you consider yourself for instance, if you consider yourself
getting angry. Hold on, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think about this. Getting angry simply means you're holding something or someone else accountable for something you can't change. As long as I'm waiting on you, right, to change, then I'm fucked.
An external expression of anger is an expression of internal conflict, in my opinion. Yeah. An external expression of anything overt.
Internal conflict. Yeah, it's within me.
If you have an internal conflict, that could be something that's going to cause a heightened emotion. Somebody didn't make you feel a certain way.
Yep.
Neither of you get to choose those feelings, like you said, and I think that's a point of wisdom, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, an external expression of anger is an expression of internal conflict. I truly believe that.
I'm getting better at not feeling angry. Like I'm starting to learn. Oh shit, that's really hard to piss me off now. I'm not subject to it.
Same.
Because I'm not saying I'm enlightened or transcended. I'm saying that I'm starting to learn why these things are happening for me, and I'm less and less likely to be affected by it because it starts to make sense. If someone judges me, I'm not easily, like if you really had a harsh opinion of me, I know myself well enough now that I never in my whole heart would have never said anything that would have intentionally tried to hurt you. I only want the best for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. I've learned to be I've gotten really hard. I can't even really kill an ant. It's like, what did he do to me? It's like I've gotten really soft in some ways, and I'm starting to understand the value of life and the importance of it. And all these questions that I seek has really got me to a point in my life that I'm fucking happy.
So does it all matter, or does it all not matter?
It does matter. It does
matter. It
matter.
matters, or it doesn't matter?
Well,
or is it just all
does
equal?
It matter to who? Should it matter? Is that a question you're asking?
No.
So does it matter? Yes, it matters to me. I'm not worried about anybody else. I think my responsibility, like I tried to figure out why I'm here to begin with. Everybody thinks they, are you special.
Yes.
And that's ego. It's ego. You think that the world revolves around you and nobody gives a shit about you. And that's when I started to learn, people don't really care about me.
It's a childish way of thinking that a lot of people are never given the opportunity to grow out of. And
that's a very narcissistic. When you say childish, that's the most narcissistic people on the planet is a child.
Literally the term egocentric is referenced in much psychology as, you ask a toddler or an infant why the moon comes up.
Yep.
Well, it's because I'm going to sleep.
Yep. They think it's them.
Yeah.
That's the reason why children feel responsible when parents get divorced.
Yes.
There's just it's a strong ego, but I'm evolving out of my ego. I'm still got it. And I think it may be important that I think if we want to live in a utopia, there can't be an ego. Egos literally have to be something that we evolve out of. We don't get to choose how we feel, right? And the ego is there to represent our failures and flaws. In many ways, that's how I use the ego. Maybe it's not, but until we evolve into a species that truly just wishes you well, man. No matter what you say to me, once I get to a point that it doesn't affect me, now it's a weird balance. Do we ever evolve out of a species? Then what's the point if you don't even care anymore?
Well, we have a drive towards productivity. We have these base drives within us.
Productivity, yeah, but that's because we're trying to feed 7 billion people.
And failing, utterly.
Okay, I keep using that as an example. But we still, look, if we were failing, we wouldn't be getting 7.6, 7.7. It's still growing.
Do you know the
I ain't saying people are being fed well. I'm not saying that. But we're just meeting the mark enough that we're still consuming.
Do you know the ratio of homes, empty homes, uninhabited homes, full houses, not just apartments, to homeless people in the U.S.?
It's probably insane, and we could easily house the homeless.
You could give not 1, 2, 10, 20. Yep. You could give 33 individual standalone houses to every single homeless person in America.
I think we should do this. I think there needs to be some experiments, like big experiments. Take a town, right? And let's just make this town. Build a town and it runs on capitalism, whatever. And or you know what I mean? Let's have some science experiments. I'm wondering if you did that. I'm wondering if they would even accept it. Like,
No.
I would the homeless accept it? Like, see what I'm saying? I'm not sure. I have an uncle that went homeless in Nashville. He preferred it. Like the simplicity of it. He got away from worldly problems. I think some of the homeless, yes, definitely, they have maybe some mental problems, but some may be smarter than all of us because they realize I just need my basic needs. Once I have that, it's so easy to stimulate my dopamine. I don't think they think about it that way. I think that what I'm trying to say, for us, it's hard to be happy. It takes a lot more for us to be happy than a homeless person. They just literally need a good find, right? A tarp, a jacket,
it depends on the person.
Buy them a beer. You know what I mean? Buy them a beer, give them $5. Like, it doesn't take much. I'm not saying I understand it.
It's hard to generalize stuff like that, and the concept of intelligence is something that I like to call into play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said before, I'm articulate. Well, there are reasons that I became articulate. The chief among those reasons is twofold, because I was raised by my mom and my dad, and a lot of other people were involved when I was younger. But my mother came over from Cuba. My last name's Garcia, so I'm half Cuban, sort of. And my mother came over from Cuba during the Bay of Pigs invasion on one of the Peter Pan flights. Now, the Peter Pan flights were literally fly-by-night planes that were sponsored by the Catholic Church and the U.S. government to bring over women and children, individuals with literally, my mom had the dress on her back and a doll. And those are the two things she was allowed to bring with her. And they gained instant citizenship. And it was just like basically a mandate. Just it happened overnight. And so my mother came over on one of those. She was thrust into the scholastic system and the foster system immediately, into an English-speaking school only, as a person who only spoke snippets of English and mostly spoke Spanish. And she was indoctrinated into, and she was 7 at the time, she was indoctrinated into the current culture, the communist culture of Fidel Castro in Cuba. So she was thrust into the American system against her will, I might add. She did not want to leave. Her parents threw her on that plane because they thought that was what was best for her and their family in the long run. So my mother had a very hard time fitting in for a very long time. She impressed that upon me, the importance of fitting in, because that is grease in your wheels as you roll through society. Mm-hmm. My dad was very...
definitely makes life easier.
Yes, and that's why my accent is fairly neutral, by the way. My first language was Spanish, and I was raised in the South from the time that I was 8, in the hills of West Tennessee, in a town that just in 2017 passed 1,000 people for the first time in recorded history.
You created a character.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Well, I was encouraged
many characters.
But yes, many
Society
characters.
encourages it.
And it's a neutral character at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I could have developed one of any number of accents, but I didn't. Now, my dad, whenever I asked about a word, first of all, if I didn't speak clearly, he would say enunciate. My mother was the same way. Why? Because they didn't want me to be perceived as any sort of thing just specifically based off of my accent. What they did not understand is that being articulate is in itself a bit of an accent, and enunciating words is in itself a frame of reference for other people to perceive you in. Now, my dad, if I asked him, hey, what does that word mean? He would literally, we always kept updated the Encyclopedia Britannica. Those salespeople loved us. And so he would point at the fucking Encyclopedia Britannica and tell me to go look it up. It was super annoying at the time. I'm somewhat grateful for it as an adult. In college, I was super fucking grateful for it because it taught me research. It taught me to always know that there's a better word out there, and if I don't know it, it's just because I haven't looked hard enough. Yada, yada, yada. Anyway, long story short, the importance of fitting into society was just very much impressed upon me. And where I was going with that, I can't quite recall.
It's interesting because I think about it a lot. I tell my kids all the time. I think, here's the deal. When it comes to life, there's not much that I believe to the point that I would consider it, this is the way it is. I always say, I'm not sure. So when I talk about something, a lot of it is not with a lot of conviction because I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this or that. I think it's all important.
I think it's very concerning. One of the biggest... I try not to judge. I think many people try not to judge, and that's like a cornerstone of a lot of belief systems is don't judge others. But at the same time, altruism is impossible.
You can't stop. The first thing we do is judge.
Exactly.
Male or female, white, black, right? That's what we see, whether we know it or not. But I don't think of it as a negative judge. Ooh, that's a whole nother concept that I have. What it is to feel judged. Like, what is judgment? I've been thinking about that a lot lately.
Mm-hmm. Boxes that we put people in. So in my personal opinion...
But I don't know if that's really judging. You know what I mean? When we say judging, it has a negative connotation to it.
It's impossible not to judge because the information...
But I think the word itself may have multiple meanings.
Oh,
we need more words.
Well, no, we don't, in my personal opinion. So the concept of progress is something that bothers me a lot. And I realize that the concept of progress is something that differs from person to person. Your idea, I at one point fully believed, I think what I got from you earlier, in that, if we all just focused on ourselves and just interacted with other people, but not dependent upon other people, I think that would be a form of utopia. Now, that would be...
Well, the reason why I believe that is because you don't get to change anybody.
Yes.
You can inspire.
It would bring you closer to balance with nature.
Well, the only way you can make a difference in someone else's life, even parents, have very little effect on the outcome of their children, especially if they force it upon them. But if a parent can inspire the child by doing it, well, I'm not telling you what to do. I can tell you this was my experience, but this is what fucking parents do. I told you.
Yeah.
I fucking told you not to do it. I told you the consequences, like a little fucking kid.
Yep.
Well, why would a child ever want your fucking opinion? Why would they ever tell you the truth? Every time they make a mistake, which is the only way you learn anything, I don't learn nothing by you showing me, by you telling me the answer, by you showing me the way. I kind of got to figure it out for myself. And I say, if you let children learn on their own early, let them break the glass, step in the puddle. It's like, well, these are the consequences, if that happens. But we parents are the fucking root problem. We wonder what's wrong with society.
We need a boss. And the concept of authority is a huge issue, in my opinion, a huge stopgap for human progress. Now, progress is another issue, and it looks different to each individual person. But what we can all hopefully agree on is that progress does not include stagnation. Now, authority is very, very important to the human condition. One needs to ask why.
I think boundaries.
Boundaries are huge.
Without boundaries, it's chaos. For instance, just recently, some boundaries were kind of given to me. It's like I lived in a very chaotic world, and there was no rules, right? There was no standard.
Structure.
And there was no structure. And I know the importance of having someone to be accountable to. Everyone is accountable to everyone, including the CEO. He's accountable to shareholders. Like, you have to have someone to say, no, this is what we agreed on. Do this. And if I don't have that in my life, if any, that's why children without boundaries are fucking chaotic. It's sad. It's almost cruel. I think it's cruel. I think it's cruel to just...
And yet, what you're suggesting, bringing everybody in to only be accountable to themselves...
No, there's no such thing. I'm saying, when I was saying a utopia is, if I act incorrectly,
based on whose interpretation of what is correct?
No, but based on what my friend or whatever who's in my utopia, based on what they're willing to accept. If I get exiled, if I get shunned, I believe this. Whatever happens to me in life, good or bad, my fault. My fault. And the reason why I believe that is because if it's my fault, I can change it, right? Let's say it is your fault, right? And you screwed me out of some money. Well, I see it like this. Well, I made a bad investment. If I get cheated, I should learn from that and say, well, you kind of put yourself in a position to be like if we ever get hustled, right? I look at the Wolf of Wall Street and I see all these people that lost a lot of money, but greed is why they lost it. They wanted something and they let their emotions fuck them over, which was their emotions. It was their fault. And what I'm saying is you got fucked. They are a piece of shit, right? I'm not saying give them a free pass. I'm saying learn from the mistake and never let it happen again. And now you're a better person because of it.
But certain people, due to their circumstance, which is by and large completely out of your control.
What are we talking about? We're talking about a broad stroke there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Certain people
what I'm saying is,
are more prone to salesmanship than others. Yeah. You and I are great salesmen. If we wanted to, we could be prominent evils in the world, in my opinion.
Yes.
Now,
I've learned how easy it is to manipulate people, but
yes.
I can't do it because I've found this thing inside me that if I consume more than I produce, it eats me from the inside out. What I'm saying is if I take from people more than I give back, like if all I am is a negative influence on you, right? I'm consuming. Or for instance, the way my company is ran, if I am not living up to what we agreed on, if I'm not overproducing, I am unhappy. I feel like I'm consuming more. I feel like I don't deserve it. And it's something inside me that eats me up. And that's what I'm going through right now with COVID hitting. I'm not able to produce what I had agreed on.
But that drive towards productivity is harmful.
No.
It literally shortens your life.
When I say productivity, it was, I got to pay the bills, right?
Sadly.
Well, I want to see the world, and nothing's free. And I don't expect anybody to give it to me. I love the fact that it's so rewarding to work for things. It's so fucking rewarding, man. Don't ever give me anything. See, that's the secret, I think, is earning it. God, there's nothing sweeter. I talked to my kids one day. I was like, tell me everything you remember. Dakota, right here. Dakota, what did you remember in life when I asked you that question? Devices, whatever it was. Tell me what you remember. Just, what was it?
The earning aspect of it all?
I didn't even talk to him about earning. I was just telling you,
No.
you know, he did not remember one thing I gave him.
Oh, no.
He only remembered the things he earned.
Yeah.
And so it hit me. I was like, oh, God, I can't give my kids anything else other than the basics. So I devised this formula. I was like, listen, I'll meet you halfway. Whatever you want in life, I'll pay for half. Right? So it just gave some incentive. But then they, like their car, you know what I mean? I don't do everything. They buy their own food. They do their own shit. But like their car, if Brennan wants a PlayStation or whatever, it's like, okay, if you're willing to work for it, because, man, it is the most satisfying thing in the world, is to fucking earn something. But to be given it, I just don't give me nothing. Like, it's something, I don't think we're designed. I think the human body, like if we're really going to think about it, why are we productive? Why are we designed to be productive? Well, because that's what's going to make the species grow. It's like something that was programmed into us through evolution.
One would think. However, in my personal opinion, if you've short-sighted what the concept of production means,
okay,
then you
think
have
about the root
stagnated.
word.
Well, the concept of production. Okay, so let's rewind on production, because production is a production-driven morality, in my opinion, is very flawed.
I
That's
think
harmful.
when I think of production, I don't think of it as cars and televisions and things. You know, I think of being productive as being a productive member of society.
based
as a
on
parent,
based on whose concept of productivity.
Well, when I say that, what I'm saying is golly.
Is it based on your parents'
It's
concept
complicated.
of productivity?
No. It's complicated. That's why I say I never have such a definite truth. You know what I'm saying? These are all ideas.
Yes.
To me, everything is an idea because an idea can be molded and expanded upon. We
It's
can
alive.
learn from it.
It
It's
evolves.
alive, and I never want anything to be a law. I want it to be an idea because that's how we evolve. Once I believe in something and this is the way it is, well, fuck, we're stuck. I can't move that thing. I can't make it better. So
But
I
there
say
are things that you can't move. There are
there are
things that you
certain
can
laws
make
of
better.
physics, but when it comes to
How long have we
culture,
been-
when it comes to culture, I think of all that as an idea, and as long as it's still an idea, and I can say, well, I'm not sure, but what if this? But what if that? But once I say no, it's solidified. This is the way it is. This is capitalism's the only way. Some people say socialism's the only way, and I say, no, you're all wrong. Well, look, we can let's talk about these things.
Those are the
you know?
simple lies that belie the fact that a blending of ideologies is the only way forward. So, like, my problem is we have sat, and, like, for me, it feels like lifetimes because I only have this one life to live, but we have sat arguing about this forever. And to me, it feels like shit or get off the pot. You know, we've sat in the car in the fucking garage thinking about, are we going to take the motorcycle? Are we going to bike? Are we going to walk? Are we going to take the car? What kind of fuel are we going to use? Well, if we use that kind of fuel, who are we hurting? Who are we gaining? Like, we're arguing about the mode of transportation and the fuel that we're going to use to get there. And we've
Because we
sat
have too
on our
much.
asses the entire time. Do we?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Really?
that we.
What's the goal? Let's simplify.
Okay, I mean, you got to. Well, then that's fucking really complicated.
I know.
We're talking about symptoms. It would take us days. We could probably never get to the end.
No, I'm not talking about symptoms. What
Like I would jump to this and say to advance the species.
What does that look like?
To advance the species?
Yes.
I think. We're just fucking blew past everybody.
Yeah.
But I like to jump to the root cause, right?
Yes, same.
Like, why are we doing this to advance the species? Why? Oh shit! And I
No,
could
not
spend
why.
a lot of time.
Not why. That's
Well,
the
why
problem.
is all that matters to me.
The why is why we don't move. If we're obsessed with why, then we're never going to agree with each other, and we're never
Well,
going to move forward.
Okay. Well, why are we doing it to begin with? You said productivity.
Because
to be productive.
we were born and molded into a society against our will, I might add.
Yep.
And we were trained to exist within that society, and now we accept that that is where we belong.
Okay.
Or why are we not all hermits living in the mountains? Because some people are drawn to society. Now, if you believe in the species, if you believe in the advancement of the species, as you put it, what does that advancement look like? What are the end goals of advancement?
I don't know. It's impossible. I think it would be an irresponsible thing to even consider. I think it could be fun to think about, but I would never. I don't think I could invest a whole lot of effort in it because it's not for me to know. I can only reflect on the things that have been, and I could say, well, why? If I can use why. Why is the only term that matters to me.
Okay.
Because what if and
Because it's
how?
the only question you can keep asking.
Well, what if and how is simple.
Yeah.
If we know why. Once you understand why, it's like what if and how is so fucking easy. That's why I tell people books are okay. You know what I mean? These how-to books, this what do you got to do? Like that's all good and fine and dandy, but has very little success rates. That's why so many of these books are written to make your life better, self-help. But if you don't understand why you're dealing with this to begin with, well, then the fucking the how and the what is going to be very complicated. It's going to be hard to apply to your life.
The problem is, like you mentioned earlier, when you're raised, whenever you ask the question why, to the answer, because I told you so, then it teaches you to stop asking why.
No, that's a problem.
It is a huge problem.
5 years old is when why starts to die, don't it?
Exactly.
You go to school,
However,
and I say, well, why? Why does it start to die? Well, okay, the education system flawed, yes, but we are trying to feed 7.5 billion people, so that's why the education system exists. Why you ask why? You didn't ask, but I asked. Well, why does this education system exist? It's why I pulled my kids out of school, because I didn't want them to lose that passion. Passion to me is curiosity. Curiosity to me is why. And as long as you have that, you can evolve as a person. You can make the planet a better place if you spend less time being angry, if you spend less time consuming and buying your happiness, and you spend more time in generating memories and, just being happy is fucking hard, dude. It's hard, but it's the choices you make in life, and it's the understanding the why I was unhappy to begin with was the only way I was able to start moving forward.
But in that, you're just trying to achieve
happiness.
equilibrium, and you're trying to achieve a narrower concept of existence, in my opinion. Or
narrower concept of existence.
Or you're trying to move the bumpers, right? So you have, if you're only living within this parameter of depression, for instance, but you want to be in this parameter that you conceive as happiness because that's what your parents told you happiness looked like.
Yeah, I don't believe in that, though.
Okay, cool. So you're trying to be in the middle where you have less context.
I'm not trying to be anywhere. I'm trying to release as much dopamine and serotonin and adrenaline as possible.
That's my problem. I'm bored.
Yeah, I know, because it's really fucking hard to stimulate it.
Well, no, it's impossible. What I'm bored with...
No, it's not impossible to stimulate it.
Fair.
But it's more difficult for us than it is for someone that's homeless. And I thought I could see.
Depends on the individual.
For instance, I have this weird fascination with, well, if it all collapses, I'm really going to be happiest. Like, it really is. Once all the power goes off, cell phones die, and all we have is each other, and now we got to hunt. Right now we got to earn our way.
Sure.
Which wouldn't last long. I mean, 90% of the population would probably eat itself.
Way more than that, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, but the simplicity of that, and I look at homeless people and I say, God, they really have an advantage in a lot of ways. I'm not glorifying what they're doing. I'm trying to say on a psychological level, how could they be happier? Why would they be happier? Well, because it takes less to stimulate dopamine and serotonin. And I don't know all these fucking hormones. I'm no expert. I just know a handful of the 50 that we have.
Well, nobody's an expert. The concept of
we're not.
The concept of happiness as a psychological and sociological study has been around for fewer than 100 years.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I know this because this is psychology. This is what I went to school for, partially. And so in psychology, the concept of happiness is literally a study. There have been people like Freud in the fields of happiness. The people whose entire profession is studying happiness. Now, what's interesting is some of the happiest people on Earth. I think technically the people who rate highest on tests of happiness, insofar as we can administer those and people can administer them to themselves, is there's a small city in the U.S. I want to say it's in fucking Nevada or somewhere weird. Yep. They have an incredible degree of naturally occurring lithium in their groundwater.
Okay.
Lithium is a very potent, one can consider it a medicine. It's also an element in its own right. Its interaction with the human brain is varied, but by and large, it basically puts bumpers on a person's perceived existence.
These are all complicated the way you say them.
Okay, so imagine that you can feel
perceived existence. So the way you say that, you can rattle that off, and it's in your head that makes sense. But to the rest of the people out there, including myself, would have a very difficult time processing that, that idea.
So, it's because most people haven't experienced it. Do you know?
Well, no, just your terminology.
Fair.
It's complicated.
So you know how you feel happy and sad occasionally?
Yep.
Imagine if you didn't.
Just kill me. Put a fucking bullet in my mouth.
You'd never be that sad.
No.
You'd never be that bored.
I don't think you would be anything without the opposite and opposing force. I think balance.
That is what lithium removes. Lithium, so balance.
So what is happiness?
So here's the thing. If you have a pendulum that's swinging from here to here.
You're saying these people do not feel negative emotions.
Nope, stop. They don't feel.
You're saying these people do not feel.
No, I'm not saying those people in that particular town don't feel. I'm saying that they feel less extremes of emotion as compared to the rest of the world because...
How do they measure this? Are they doing CT scans and are they measuring the amounts of hormones that are being released?
So, sometimes. So there have been blood studies done. Most of these tests are self-administered, which I understand gives a high degree of variance. But some of them are experiencing what you're thinking of is
what's the industry in this town?
An fMRI, a functional MRI machine.
Okay.
So
what is the industry though? What do they do? What does this town depend on?
I don't think it depends on anything specifically.
Self-sustaining?
I wouldn't say any
They're
town
not
in America
hunter-gatherers.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a normal American city?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a simplified, live off the land type of environment.
No.
Okay.
It's
so
just
it's
your
literally,
average-
okay.
It's your average community.
Yeah, I thought, well, if they've gone off to live into the wilderness, I could see those people being much happier.
There's much lower degrees of like crime and just any kind of extreme behavior.
Yeah.
But I mean, by and large, it's just a normal fucking
So
city.
you're saying it's all in the water.
Oh, and a lot of things. There's a lot.
You know what? Isn't that fascinating? So I don't know if I can go into it.
Talk about simplifying. I can.
I don't know if I can go into it, but like even there, like everybody's wanting to fucking blame somebody.
Yes.
Everybody has an answer, and all these politicians and every preachers, everybody's so full of fucking shit. If you would just quit acting like you know, for instance, parents are the worst. To pretend they lie to their children all the fucking time by just not saying, I don't know. Let's think about it. Well, why do you think? Rather than just give me a fucking answer. I go to my mom, I go to my dad, and they just gave me an answer. 90% of my fucking teachers growing up were just full of shit.
Yeah.
They were just full of shit. They were regurgitating something else somebody told them.
Yeah.
It's like, hold on, no. Why? Why do we do that, though? Why do you think parents do that?
I think that they do that because that is how they can remain within their perception of reality comfortably. That is the only way that they can not go fucking insane, for instance.
Okay, well, that's
I think that we all have
complicated.
It is. I think we all have
but
let me remove the complication.
What if I didn't know? What if okay, I'm supposed to be an educator, as a parent, as a teacher.
Yeah.
Right? I use them two for a perfect example because if I act like I don't know, what if they lost faith in me? It's almost, I think it's
Why is
our
that faith
ego.
important?
I think it's our ego. It's
Why-
like
but
my
why
gut
is-
instinct is I'm too insecure to just tell you the truth and say, I'm not sure. It's like, as long as we know, we get to stroke our ego. It's like this. Do you know how this works? Well, let me tell you. You're just trying to prove your intelligence. You can't just let them figure it out for themselves.
Well, and if you admit that you don't know, then you have introduced the unknown. And that's
Also,
like one of
yeah,
our most simple
yeah.
fears.
But it's also, the more you know, the more you think, okay, let's go, because we glorify the wrong fucking things.
Let's
We
talk about it.
glorify the people that know the most. So we try to pretend to be that.
Okay, so I want to touch on that specifically, on the concept of intelligence, and the concept of perception, on the concept of people who know the most, and on the concept of, like, again, intelligence and how we consider intelligence in this comparative culture that we have. So I had the, you could call it fortune, to know one of the most intelligent people on the planet for a time. You could still say I do know him, but it's kind of a random, we won't talk for years or months at a time, and then we'll get together for a beer or something like that.
How did you measure his intelligence?
By all of the normal ways that you would measure intelligence in the U.S. This person holds the Guinness World Record for as long as Guinness has been around and as long as history has been around.
He's an older person.
No. He is the youngest person to have ever graduated college on planet Earth that we know of.
He's the youngest person to have ever graduated college that you know of.
With a 4-year
that we
degree.
know of. Okay.
Here in Murfreesboro.
Oh, no shit.
Yes.
No shit.
He used to play trivia at Opossums.
No shit?
Yes.
Probably know who he is.
Yes.
You don't have to drop any names?
You've met him. So my point is, I know this
Good
guy.
at trivia. What I need.
Oh,
him
he's
on my team.
obnoxiously good at trivia.
So that's how you measure intelligence.
No.
Okay.
I'm saying this is how most of the world would
Yes,
measure
I
intelligence.
agree with you.
Is like a college level, whatever. A college has to be accredited by the country. It has to be internationally recognized. Like all these things make a college what we would consider to be a place of learning.
Yep.
So this guy achieved a 4-year college degree at the age of 12, or 11 and 9 months, something like that. I don't know, like 12 years old. So from every available metric, this guy rates very high on levels of intelligence. Last time I met him, he was homeless.
Yeah.
Last time I met him, he was wandering the streets, jumping from Airbnb to Airbnb, asking for money from his parents, even though he's got hundreds of thousands in the bank. Like all of these things. Last time I met him, he was homeless because he went through a bad breakup and he just hit a low, right? Now, you talk to this guy, and he does know a lot, and he perceives things in ways that are very difficult for your average person to comprehend. But one of the things that is very consistent with him is his enormous ego. Now, I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing. I think, honestly, having known him for years at this point, that it's necessary.
The ego?
I think
or
that
his ego?
I think that his ego, the way that he perceives things, which, by the way, is very simple. It's, I'm generally correct, and everybody else is generally less correct.
Okay.
To simplify it. That's kind of how he seems to look at the world.
Yep.
I'm sure it's much more complex than that internally. However, he keeps bringing up a point every time I speak to him, in that this guy is he's not 40 yet. He's older than me, and I'm 30, so he's in his 30s. He regularly tells me that most of the people in his league, if you're gonna measure people in a league, like child prodigies, people who achieve peaks that older people don't typically, like at a younger age. So if you're going to put him in a league, most people who are as intelligent as him, insofar as we measure such things, as accredited as him, most of them are dead. Usually before they hit puberty, or right when is more often the case. Almost none of them live past their 20s. Why? You've hit a peak. You have no relation to other people because you've moved so far beyond them insofar as they measure such things. So, like, the question now, again, he was homeless. Now, my thoughts on the matter are that our perception of reality, what we allow, and like, you know, you have this, I think it was first said in a very ancient text, but most recently it was in the Assassin's Creed video game genre. And I love this quote because it's so silly in its origin. Nothing is true, everything is permitted. Very simple quote. I really like it. Now,
I agree.
That's just me putting, again, bumpers on the alleyways of reality. This guy put his bumpers in a very specific place, and it's, I'm usually correct, everybody else is usually not. That is how he copes with all the shit that killed all of his friends.
I mean, a lot of things I don't have an opinion on because it would take me time to process.
Yes.
I've learned that. I've learned how to do that.
So the concept of intelligence, for me,
Yeah.
what I have processed it out to be, knowing some very intelligent people, not being a very intelligent person, knowing some very unintelligent people, like evolving as an adult and learning some things, and evolving my personal concept of what intelligence is conceived of, conceived as, I guess. One of the big things for me is that I believe that intelligence is basically our perception of reality. Let's simplify it. So a camera lens, right? If you increase or decrease a certain, and this is where I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I know that you can change a camera lens to be completely unfocused on anything or hyper-focused on one thing. Now, I also know that you can change the light perception to be way too bright to where you can't see anything on the screen, or way less. I think that reality fucking hurts. And I think that more intelligent people, insofar as we consider what intelligence is, what you and I would consider intelligence to be, more intelligent people have less insulation against reality. We have fewer filters between our perception.
You just included yourself.
Yes. We have fewer filters between our perception of reality and somebody else's. And a lot of that is based on the falsehoods that you allow yourself.
It's complicated. But I think about intelligence a lot.
Same.
And what is intelligence. And I think I've determined, shit, it's hard. I think that everyone is infinitely intelligent.
Yes.
I call it untapped potential. And I think that our education system has kind of suppressed and made people convinced that you are this or you are this. I'm a mechanic or I am a writer, or you know what I'm saying?
Well, they've given you a goal, you know, square pegs and round holes type deal.
I think it's complicated, and I think it's something I have to think about a lot. And I love talking about it, you know, but I don't look at people as being smart or dumb anymore. No. I think of as a species that has this species has a desire to exist. We can go into why. That's a whole nother question. But what it's done is it's created different types of characters or tools. We're all machines. I think of the human body as a machine. And the Nathan you know, is actually conscious thought. You know, I'm like the CEO that's in charge of this machine. But you know, I'm not in total control. I think of it like a factory.
We're all unwitting agents of entropy. You know, like the end will happen. Everything will degrade into a separate. I fully believe this. Everything will degrade into dust.
Yeah, I actually have this idea though that it may. Anyways, I don't know if I want to get into that.
No, I think that the concept of life is basically whose race. So this is why we call it a race, in my personal opinion. It's the race of life. So I
call it the human race.
Yeah, I mean, there's the human race. There's the race of lions. There's the race of what the fuck have you. So like people have. It depends on how far you can go before death catches up with you as a species or as a person. So like you can reduce that as far as you want. You can live moment to moment, as a lot of people do. You know, there's this drive towards mindfulness lately in pop culture. But as a species, we are fighting against death. We're trying to live longer, harder, and with more experiences.
Yeah. But I don't think of it as an individual thing. Like,
sure.
I think of it as the species. Like my goal, what makes me happy and what makes me depressed, right? Well, being productive to helping people. You know what I mean? Being loved. Why would someone love me? right? It's because I've provided value in their life. It could be entertainment. It could be just coming out and just saying, hey, man, listen, I understand what you're going through, you know?
But if that person's only experienced a very certain piece of love, like if their definition of love includes one thing, and you don't have that thing. If a person was raised to think that love is giving somebody flowers and nothing else,
I think that's where the word love is.
then
is
their ideal
complicated,
person
right?
is a florist.
You know, well, yes, but like it's very complicated.
So
the
would you
idea of
simplify
love.
that? Yes.
I think of love like everyone thinks they want to love. I think the goal in life is to love people.
I want to say it was Plato that said that love is the greatest mental illness or something along those lines.
Maybe, but I the reason why people love is with the hope that they would be loved is much more powerful, in my opinion. This is an idea that I have.
No, it's an anti-altruistic idea. I love it.
It's something we only do to have done. Like we want to provide value in other people's lives with the hope that they appreciate it. And that you know what I'm saying? It's a gratitude. We're chasing gratitude. The reason why we look, it's
praise from Daddy.
For you to smile and say thank you is what I seek. It feels fucking good.
Yes.
Now, that meant I did something in this world that was productive. I made it a little bit better. And it's really just a combination of all these small things, you know? This is like we can't go into these conversations with me unless we have unless we have a desire to stick with it, because man, when we start touching the surfaces, these are very complicated ideas.
But that's the issue. That's the reason.
We were just talking about intelligence and how we measure intelligence.
Well, and like the concept of intelligence, because the concept of intelligence, in my personal opinion, is as vague a concept as is the concept of love and happiness.
I don't even think we should be trying to measure intelligence.
Agreed entirely.
I think that people are doing things they were not meant for.
Intelligence isn't a great goal. There's no singular great goal.
No, for me, intelligence is self-discovery. Getting to a point that you understand a concept to where it just, oh yeah, this makes sense. Not because I was told this, not because I read it in a book, but because oh my God, I fucking know. I know. Right?
Well, the belief that you know.
Well, to the point that it's like so many people go through life thinking they understand something. They don't know shit. They're regurgitating something they had read or was told, and they never got to the core. They can even teach it. Most teachers, I would say, are just regurgitating something they were told, not they believe.
Well, nobody can know everything either.
No, I know that. But what I'm saying is we're typically good at the things we enjoy. And if we...
but what we enjoy is
contextual. Lives in Finland.
Oh, lucky fuck.
And he was born in Finland.
Lucky
so he's
fuck.
got dual citizenship. And
it's like the prettiest language and like the third happiest country in the world. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating... It's something I want to sit down and talk to him about a lot more, because their value system.
Oh yeah.
They don't see as an attorney as any more valuable than a plumber.
Yes.
Like it's their part of their culture to say no. These are all important things.
Yes.
And
that circles
their
around.
education system is far more advanced. Not because of what my cousin told me, but I started researching it, and I was like, oh no, they really allow people to seek their own education. I think it's this. I think the secret to helping people explore what they could be good at it, and if they're good at it, they could be very productive in society.
To each his greatest strength.
Yeah, I teach them how to learn, not what to learn. We're teaching everyone what to learn. I think by the 6th grade, you could probably go on and do whatever you wanted. You have enough information to you can teach them the basics, arithmetic. Basic science. Well, science is fucking complicated. It's everything. Science is literally the theory of everything. I mean, science could be English. It's math. It's, science. You can't just say science. It's fucking complicated. So many different types of science. Physics,
is the study
biology.
It's the study of repeatable phenomena, circling back to what we said before.
There you go. But I'm saying we can't say, oh, you're going to learn science. Well, what type of science are you interested in? What piques your interest? And that's typically what you'd be good at. So what I've focused on with my kids is I'm not trying to teach them what to learn. I'm giving them the basics. Right? The basics to function in life. I want them to know arithmetic, okay? And then I'm going to expose them to algebra. And if they're good at it, it probably means they kind of enjoy the puzzles. I think of math as fun because it's puzzles. It's not because it's something you have to know. So, I took a 0 in algebra for the entire 6 months of being in the class. I never knew any algebra until I went to college. I took applied math, and I cheated. 90% of that. I graduated high school with a 1.7 GPA, and I cheated from the 4th grade until the day I graduated, and then I went to college thinking I was a complete moron. I went to college to get laid, to meet girls, to have fun, because I got tired of working in a factory for 4 days and working for my parents. I never graduated college either, but the point is that I had to do these things to stay in college, and it was fucking easy. It was the easiest thing I'd ever done because I had to do algebra. I was like, shit, this is not hard at all. So what I did in life was I never accepted what people told me to learn. I just figured out a way to learn. And so that's kind of what I've been exposing my kids to is like, man, you ain't got to know any of these things. Like, what's the purpose of a college degree or a high school diploma or a GED? I think it's important because a factory needs to know that you are capable of doing shit you don't want to do. Other than that, you don't need a degree to work on a line. You don't. You just need to be able, you need to see proof that you have the ability to follow, you know what I mean? Like, I hate the way we do things, but it's what, I'm not going to get into it. The point is that
there have been monkey astronauts. You can train an individual. There was some famous behaviorist that said, if you give me 100 babies and put them in white rooms, I can train one to be a lawyer, one to be a scientist, one to be a doctor, whatever. Like, you can train people to do anything. We're infinitely moldable, absolutely. But this is all like goal oriented, And I did want to touch on something that we talked about before with regard to
you have a whole list of notes.
I know, yeah. Certain people that are happier than others, for instance. So one of the
everyone is to some degree happier than someone else. Like they're. You know what I'm saying?
Based on what we consider happiness to be as individuals.
Well, okay. I think we could actually get to that pretty quick if you still got it written down. Like, what is happiness?
Well, happiness is standardized, and that's the issue. Happiness is not contextual.
Isn't it a feeling?
Well, I mean, it could be. It depends on what your concept of happiness is. Again, like if all you've ever known is,
I can never
tunnels.
measure your happiness. I can only measure mine.
Exactly.
So I only know my happiness.
As far as like measurements of self-taken tests, like self-administered tests, like where I write down, hey, I feel this way generally. I don't generally feel this way. I feel this way generally.
I don't believe in none of that shit.
I agree. I understand. But it is a repeatable phenomenon, right? I can continuously put forth these tests to people and see patterns and then base opinions off of those patterns and then maybe find a way moving forward that influences those patterns.
Okay.
That's science, So what I wanted to say is CEOs versus the caste system of India, for instance. There's a portion of India that still stands by the caste system. The caste system, and I experienced this in Nepal when we went to Everest Base Camp. The caste system is you are born into a position that you cannot, by sociological law, leave. In India, there is a portion of India that follows some caste systems where basically cows are sacred in the Hindi religion, and so cows are sacred. There is an entire caste whose entire job it is to follow around these cows and scoop up their shit out of the streets. They are shit scoopers. That is their existence. They measure significantly higher on every available metric of happiness
Makes sense.
than CEOs.
Yeah.
And most Americans,
I imagine.
period.
Let me tell you, man. People, it's like when you look, man. We got to think about what happiness is. Let's try to render the idea down. I think of happiness as someone that feels, it's a feeling, right? I would be willing to say if we considered happiness an idea, I think that happiness is an emotional feeling, a release of a certain amount of hormones, right? And I think, why is dopamine even released? It's the reward system, right? You did something good. And the evolution came along and said, listen, let's get them to be productive. We could more procreation. The tribe can grow, right? Like it's, so the more I produce, the more, like evolution has designed us in a way that we get these hits to feel good, the more productive we are. It's just the fucking way it is. But we can also get it by buying shit because we it feels fucking good to buy shit. A lot of it is satisfying our ego, to look cool, to be accepted by society. But those are momentary moments of happiness. Look, they go away as fast as you got them. Like if you see it on a graph, it looks like this. It's gone. It's a moment. So those are the wrong happinesses. We've been trained to chase those, to be a consumer-based society. All these things, cell phones and the microphones and all this shit's bullshit. I didn't need none of this. I could use my cell phone. I didn't need any of this fancy shit. But but it's cool.
It is. I mean,
Right? It
Well, I
made
mean,
me happy.
it's fun and it's stimulating in a lot of ways. But I mean, like what we're doing is we're creating these short-term dopamine pathways.
Yeah.
You know, and but see the crux of the issue in
Dude
my
that scoops shit.
yeah, super happy.
All he has to do, the CEO, God dang, it takes a lot for that motherfucker to be happy.
Most of them, yeah.
So I think they're fucking
Most of them
up.
are in that
I
position
think the
because they're
smartest,
incapable of being
Okay, I
happy.
say this. The people that sweep the floor, I think, are smarter than all of us that are trying to achieve all these insane places. All the positions of leadership and responsibility is fucking insane. Why would you want those unless you're trying to protect your family or you know what I mean? It's important for survival. Yes, I say take on a leadership role if you're good, if you're best for that particular position. But a good leader also knows that when he's not the best leader for the job, the best leaders know when to follow, right? Because none of us are great at
I think
everything.
the best leaders are the best liars.
No. I think we missed. You're too cynical there. No, when I say an effective leader, right, inspires people to be better, and they're only a good leader. When they lead, my only fear is that I may disappoint them, not of their harsh wrath and I'm going to get fired or docked or you know what I'm saying. Those are leaders that lead out of fear.
That's the authoritarian upbringing speaking, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, they're both effective. You can lead with an iron fist, but it's not that effective. It's not that effective. What is more effective is respectful leadership. Someone that respects themselves enough not to be talked down to, but never would talk down to someone else. They're all about lifting people up around them. They're a tide. They're a rising tide. They you know what I mean? They want to see and they never take credit, right? They never take credit for what you did. They put you in positions to win, not hold you down. And the world glorifies bad leaders. I see it everywhere because I see bad leaders hiring bad leaders, supervisors. You know what I'm saying? It's like bad leadership is now our whole system's fucked right now.
What if it was all anonymous?
That's a whole nother concept. Hold on, we were just talking about happiness, anonymous. Like I
you
believe in boundaries. I believe in authority when it comes to having to produce things that I don't want to fucking do. When it comes to doing things that need to be done to keep this thing alive, whether it be a business, I need someone to tell me to do it. I just do. And I think all people really need that.
I think that humans have an innate drive towards authority. However, I think that we are innately incapable of having authority over ourselves. I think that humans are bad at governing themselves.
Yes, we're terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're terrible. That's ultimately my point.
Yeah.
We're bad at doing things that we don't want to do. We're good at doing things we want to do. We're really fucking good. I need no one to tell me what to do when I'm having fun. Matter of fact, get the fuck out of my way. I'm coming through. When I'm having fun, you cannot stop me. Or when I'm just feel that drive.
But what if what you want to do?
When I have desire. When there's no desire, you're going to have to push me along.
But desire doesn't come without a void.
Well, hold on. God dang it, because you're right.
You need to make somebody believe in a void.
Hold on. But desire is complicated. Like a desire is not me. Desire is something that's pulling me, telling me, forcing me. Like it's that thing that I just have to have it.
Desire is based on myth.
Maybe, but I think it's real. The word is
The
real.
reward.
The idea is real of desire. It's that thing that, boy, it might be easy to forget too that it even existed if you haven't felt it in a long time. Like,
I'm not entirely certain, but I'm pretty sure the root words of desire, disire. Ire is discontent. Disire is a removement of discontent.
I like that. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
if you look at the etymology of the word desire, then you are literally removing a discontent, as I understand it. And so,
Yeah, but I don't get to choose my desires.
Yes.
I really don't.
So, well, here's the thing. Etymology from Middle English, desiren, from Old French, desirer, whatever, from Latin, something I can't pronounce, to long for, desire, feel the want of, miss, or regret.
Love it.
So you need to be told, you need to be fooled into thinking that something is missing in order to get a reward from attaining it.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's part of our human evolution, though. You know what I mean? It's part of this thing that we've it's fucking complicated.
I think that's a shared
I don't
fiction.
even try to pretend to understand these things.
But I think, remember what I said before?
Shared fiction.
Yeah, I think that the concept of desire is a fiction, because you've been convinced by somebody.
No,
so if the
I'm saying there's something inside that makes me want her, it, that, climb that, right? What is that? What does that manifest? What manifested that? You know?
a sense of
and I think
wonder.
it was. Well, I think you nailed it right there. It was the desire came from I have to stop feeling this way, and an opportunity came along. Right? There was something attainable. I think I can have that. Then maybe that's where the desire comes from. But it's the opposite of feeling like shit.
So remember the race thing? The race implies a goal.
Shitty vocabulary, by the way. Sorry about that.
No, the simpler you can describe something, the more intelligent you're generally considered, right?
Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, so said Da Vinci.
Yeah.
Vinci.
I think it was Einstein that said something along the lines of, if you can't explain it to a toddler, you don't know it well enough.
I agree.
I agree entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's that level of understanding I was actually referring to. That's actually what I was talking about. Like to get it like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then you can break it down literally to a child.
So I like that feeling of, oh shit, a realization, but I honestly think that the oh shit feeling is a sense of wonder because you have discovered that there are things that you don't know. Now I want to get back to motivation and desire and...
Did I mess you up there? You had some other stuff that you wanted to go over, and I think I may have distracted you.
No, I cross it out as I cover it.
Oh, man.
I think that, most of it. I think that desire specifically is a manifestation of our need for the carrot and the stick, right? So you got a horse, you got a stick, and then you have a piece of fishing line, and then you have a carrot dangling in front of the horse, right? So that's the motivation to make the horse keep running, right? So we have this race that we're running in life. We're trying to get to the finish line. We're trying to outrun death, basically, at the end of the day.
What? Go ahead.
I think that we do exist in a state of entropy at all times, but I think that we are... One of our drives is just to live. That's the simplest drive, to live and move on. Procreation, sustenance, all of these things fall dead at the feet of the desire to move forward, to continue the race. And in my personal...
I think that's us evolving.
I don't.
To move forward.
Evolution...
I think we're evolving as a species.
But evolution has a purpose, right? If you're getting better, you're getting better at running the race.
It's not us. It's I think of it as that... Whatever. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, it's okay. I was just saying that I think that the concept of desire, the concept of making ourselves believe the fiction that something is missing beyond, like whatever, beyond our, we have the basic needs, housing, drink, food, sex, yada, yada, yada. To believe that you need anything, anything else is a fiction that you tell yourself so that you can achieve the motivation to move forward in the race.
It all makes sense. It took all this time for me to finally understand a fictional truth.
Oh, I think we both understood it to begin with. It's just trying to convey it.
Yeah. I love it. Why? We should have practiced this little exercise. Why is that? Let's accept that it's a truth, right? Or that idea. We can agree on it, but let's say, well, why?
Does there have to be a why?
Yeah, I think there's always... I don't know if there has to be. I think there always is. I mean, you got to think. I mean, we're motivated by something, right? So I just go to the why, and I don't think that we embrace the why enough in education. I think we suppress it because we're not. Hey, stop worrying about why. Just do it. Like I don't have time to teach 30 of you little bastards why. Let's just move on and to the next subject.
I think the sense of wonder that comes from discovering that you haven't discovered everything is a huge motivator for a lot of people. That's our why. But why do these okay? So why are we motivated? A fictional truth. Is that what you said? A shared fiction.
A shared fiction. Like, why would that exist? What could have brought that into existence? I was thinking about politics the other day. I don't think it's a man-made thing. I think politics, once we broke out of a utopia, right? A small group of 5 or 6, and we created a tribe. Now there's a hierarchy, right? And I was like, shit, I think the idea of politics having a left or a right was just something that manifested on its own for balance, right? It was just something that happened. If everybody went to the right side of the plane crashes. If everybody goes to the left side of the plane crashes. Like we have to say, oh, let's come here. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a very natural phenomenon. I think of politics and all things of structure and hierarchies and capitalism and communism. I think these things are phenomenons that we've tried to, ADHD is a phenomenon and that we've tried to give it a title and we try to understand it. But if people with ADHD, I think that's a personality trait that's been very beneficial and effective in making our world go round, just like all the other things you could possibly be. Like it takes all types to make... you got to have the shit scooper. They play a very fucking productive role. We just don't put any value in that. We put our value in the wrong things. If we would quit idolizing money and cars and fame and fortune and started thinking, oh no, What is it to just have everyone happy around us? Well, if we would start saying, oh, you know what? The shit scooper is every much as important as the attorney.
Equality.
Matter of fact, way more important than the attorney.
Equality. No, I agree entirely.
But yeah, that's a complicated thing because we have egos that we can't have equal outcome.
So I love that you brought up attorneys and complications in the exact same sentence. And the reason I love that is because attorneys only exist because we overcomplicated existence. The rule book right now, like, do you know every law in America?
Fuck no, I don't care. Listen,
Neither do I.
greed, because I'm not willing to say, all right, hey, you beat me. You take it. I'm going to learn from my mistake, and I'm not going to let you back into my circle. Because if I could exile you out of my tribe, there would be no purpose for an attorney. There would be none to settle this debate. If I had enough self-respect to say, you got me, but no more, and you exile them out of you keep letting them come back and beat you over and over. No, we're just not taught that. It's something I think that's been missing, and it's a concept that I have. We're taught to respect others first. As children, you better show respect. I think we fucked up as parents. I think we should have taught our children to be respected, to demand respect. And if you disrespect them, they should have been taught to respect themselves enough to say, you ain't gonna treat me like that, right? I think that respect would be a natural phenomenon if children were taught to respect themselves first.
The problem is, to assert yourself, you must be on equal footing with the person against whom you are asserting yourself. Or
I don't want to assert myself. You
just said that you want your children to expect and require respect from other people, yes?
Yeah, but to assert, I was thinking of that as trying to be forceful.
Well, you are...
No, I'm just not going to let you in my circle. I'm not going to let you be a part of my life. If you want to be my friend,
sure,
you have to earn that.
Oh, and I like you said before, I feel the same way.
I think we spend the rest of our life learning to be self-respected.
The issue with turning every man into an island is that every person into an island. The problem is some people are strong enough to disagree with you forcefully and then remove you from your standing.
I agree, because I don't think we're taught. I'm thinking as a toddler.
No matter what you're taught, if you and I eat the same thing, work out the exact same amount or the exact same age, or
I think it's changed. I'm telling you, it's because I have kids. I have 3 science experiments.
That's what they are.
That's exactly what they are.
Yes.
And now I've tried to experiment on them that I felt they would be the most productive, which I feel that's what generates a tremendous amount of happiness. Like I want them to depend on themselves as much as possible and not expect anything from anyone. But I have been experimenting on them in a way that I would never treat them. I want them to look at me and say, don't talk to me that way. Don't talk to me that way. You understand what I'm saying? That could be assertive. That would be assertive. Like, don't treat me. I didn't do anything to deserve that. But we as parents just constantly disrespect our children.
Should you be able to talk to them that way?
Fuck no.
Okay, so
what I'm saying is I don't want them to talk to me that way because what I'm trying to say is that we parents say, don't you look at me like that. Don't you do this. Don't you do that. But then we do it to them. We teach our children to disrespect other people, right? It's really fucked up. It's like this. We don't. What I'm trying to say is this making any sense at all?
I think
as a double standard. Parents constantly say, you should show people respect. You should show me respect, even though I didn't earn it, right? I could come home from a bad day at work from being stressed the fuck out because I'm trying to live in this thing, trying to compete with the neighbors and buy this big house, and I'm working too much. None of it means anything. What I'm trying to say is money, right? Now, when I come home, I'm stressed out. My kid, you know what I'm saying? I'm very easily stressed. God damn it, this could be misunderstood easily. But I see parents that are stressed out and they snap at their children. And I wish that we could be like, hold on, let's teach our children not to allow us to snap at them, to look at us and say, don't talk to me that way. I didn't deserve that, right? To have that level of self-confidence, to say, no one can treat me that way. Because I tell you what, we spend the rest of our life trying to achieve that, trying to take that back because it was stripped from us as children. To be disrespected was a normal thing as a child. And I just see it far too much. And I started realizing, man, I gotta teach my children to never let me talk. What if they could stand up to me? So I just started reversing the way I did things, and I still fuck up. As a parent, my kids would never talk back to me, but I want them to. Not talk back, but to not accept the way they're treated by anybody. If this makes any sense at all, it makes perfect sense in my head about you got to show people how to treat you. And if you let people run you over, they're just going to run you over. But I just thought if we could teach them at birth, like if we changed the way we thought as a society, we could literally say, holy shit, maybe we're doing it backwards. Maybe we should teach our children to respect themselves before they even respect me. I should have to earn their respect.
But a comparison-based concept of self-worth is just not, it's not fruitful.
It's fucking complicated.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is not practiced.
So the word complications I wanted to touch on earlier. Do you know what the word, I just gave it away. So the internal mechanisms of a clock, of a watch, of a watchmaker back in the day, all those cogs and all those wheels, they have a collective word, and it's called complications. Okay. Every tiny piece that is Makes within a mechanical watch is called a complication. And Very I love cool. that because you took something as simple as the fucking sun and you complicated it. You complicated the shit out of it, right? And it's all to standardize because you're trying to standardize. And like I think that's a portion of the problem.
Also, I think our curiosity to be able to make it's like a Rube Goldberg.
Yeah,
you know Rube Goldberg.
Oh, I love
that's
him.
a watch.
Yes,
right. And so it really is. It's an over. You said the sun was just fine. You know what I mean? It really did its job. And also we have an internal instinct and whatever. I mean,
to complicate things.
But we overcomplicate the fuck out of watches.
Agreed.
It could be much. I mean, it's a fascinating machine though. It's really incredible what human beings have done. I mean, what the technology we learned from that was applied to so many other things.
If you cannot remove the drive for a sense of wonder, if you cannot remove the drive for moving forward as a race, then the least you can do is to respect that simplicity. Instead, we choose to complicate it, and that in its own self is defeating.
Well, I think that maybe, I've never had this thought before, but maybe to evolve as a species is to almost devolve, like say, ho, ho, ho. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like what we want, we're not working towards.
Well, that's why stuff like, we mentioned Watchmen earlier. They had a shared enemy. So that's one way of achieving it if you exploit the tribalism that's inherent in most people. But if you can provide a common goal that everyone can agree on, which, so here's the thing. In order for everybody to agree on a common goal, we have to all fit in the same context. So we could provide internet to the world, right? We could provide the exact same exposure to knowledge worldwide that we do now. We could house everybody, feed everybody. If we meet the basic needs of everyone and remove the restrictions that some people have as far as access to information, healthcare, technology, if we remove all the restrictions from that, that is simplification. That is unification. So yeah, we're giving everybody a smartphone, which is not a simple thing, but what we are doing is unifying. If everybody has access to the exact same style of smartphone, then what makes you better than me? What comparison do I have at this point?
We'll find something.
We will. Yeah, color of the skin, physical deformities.
Just because we're such a primitive thing.
What if it was all anonymous?
I don't know. This is a theory that you're talking about.
Yeah, the theory that I keep touching on. Basically, I don't think that humans are fit to govern themselves, so I think that you must remove the humanity. So if robots don't take over, if aliens don't invade, I think the face of the leader is unknown in the future.
Yeah, I would not just agree to anything like that because it's complicated.
Yeah.
I think if people could maybe, like if we started practicing saying, I'm not sure. Let me think about that. If it interests me enough, rather than having an opinion.
I don't know is one of the most impressive things somebody can say to me. If somebody comes to me with just like, it literally, like, have you ever seen somebody look out a window that has like raindrops or condensation on it? And you can see, we just know inherently looking at their eyes, that they're focused on their eyes, you can see whether they're looking at the window, the raindrops, or the vista beyond, the outside.
Yep.
When I see somebody just looking at the raindrops who refuses to change the focus on their eyes, that is the biggest red flag turn off, like anxiety to me, because I know that person is far too sure of reality to be a productive member of mine.
You could say they're probably in denial. I mean, they're suffering from a lot. Like it's hard to, like this podcast.
Socrates said, "The only thing that I know is that I know nothing."
Yeah, man, it's so good. So this podcast, the people that I've chosen, everybody says you got to think outside the box, and I've always said, "What box?" There is no box. It's infinite possibilities, and I love that. And so the people that I've chosen, even though you have an opinion.
Yeah.
And you know, ever since I've known you, there's a level of you that is, would cynical be a fair word? Like you just kind of have your mind made up on a few things? Like, is that a good word? You tell me the definition of cynical, but I feel like that's the proper word on some things. Like you've lost hope in some areas, right? Like you just said, fuck it. But then you still, like you come from a different place than me, and we can still learn from each other, and that was why it was important to have you on. And I have probably friends that are wondering why I haven't invited them on. It's because they have such an opinion on something that I don't feel that it would be productive. It's like, okay, you have your mind made up, but what if we're both wrong? What if we don't know? What if we could? But once I make my mind up, I'm stuck. I cannot progress. I can't evolve. And I think that's the secret, is to be, I'm not sure. But I quit taking a stance on everything. Take a stance on a value, right? I believe in, like, everybody gets mad at me. Not everybody, but people have a hard time with my profanity. And shockingly, I've used very little through this whole podcast. I might have to slip fuck in there every now and then. But the value that I put in these words, there is none. They mean nothing. They have no meaning whatsoever. They're acronyms and adjectives, and, they're just fillers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are. And they're fun to me. They're fun words to me.
They're cathartic.
Words,
They're dopamine hits.
I like using them because if that offends you, this may not be so it'll kind of weed out a little bit of my audience easily to say this ain't the place for you, because this is a place of ideas and possibilities. Words like integrity, honor, just basic core value words. Truth, that's complicated. Truth is a fucking complicated idea.
Well, a mantis shrimp has 36 rods, and we have 16.
What I'm saying is that I put value in core, you know what I mean? I put value in things that kind of hold me to the earth and keep me from losing my path.
So there you go, losing your path, holding you down to the earth. I look at it, again, in degrees of insulation against reality. I think that reality in general sucks, and that is a bit of a cynic in me, a bit of a pessimist, one might say. However, I look at it differently. I look at it as, if I expect either the worst, or at least if I expect nothing good to happen, I'm real happy and surprised when good stuff does happen to me.
Expect the worst, hope for the best.
Well, expect the worst. That way all your surprises are good ones. Yeah, expect the worst, hope for the best. I like the one that I said because it's a Robert Jordan quote. Is one of my favorite authors. Okay. But I just want to follow through on this train of thought, if I may.
Yeah.
So for me, my sense of comfort comes from this. It's basically a cop-out, right? So other people, they have maybe some certain drive, and I'm not saying I don't either, but a lot of people seem to have very obvious drives, whether they're taking core values into account, whether they have the drive towards being Christ-like or some sort of religion or family values or, whatever sort of fiction that they share. I suppose my comfort is derived from the fact that if I expect that everything is terrible and everyone is terrible and that I can have no effect on anything, I am therefore relieved of the responsibility to.
Yeah. And
that is so much weight off my shoulders, and it brings me so much comfort. And a lot of people look at it as being cynical and being all of these words to which, they seem to think that it's a pejorative. And pejorative is basically whenever a word has been given enough context that it's generally perceived as negative, I would say is a decent way to define the word pejorative. So oh God, I'm going to touch on something interesting here. So one of my favorite books is called The Ethical Slut. Really great book, and it's basically like the Bible for every non-traditional relationship model that you see in Western culture. So, but one of the things that touches on the title is The Ethical Slut, and what they're doing is they're removing the pejorative of the word slut. So, in the past, many people have used slut as a negative thing, right? Well, what does the word slut mean? You're having a lot of sex, probably a lot of orgasms, preferably with a lot of different partners.
You're doing what you was here for. Procreation.
What is the problem with any of it? Or even if you didn't procreate, if you just had a lot of orgasms.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. When I call the body a machine, it's here to do one thing. I think of a human cell. What is the human cell? Each cell in the body has a purpose, right? It's to provide more than it consumes, and once it starts consuming more, then it should die. If it doesn't die, it turns into cancer. Okay? So I think of the human being as a cell on the planet. You know what I mean? It's part of this hive mind. It's part of this machine that's here to procreate, to populate the planet.
What do we call something that self-replicates endlessly?
Something that replicates...
Self-replicates endlessly.
Cancer? I don't know.
Yeah. Cancer. Well, cancer usually dies with the individual. One notable exception is that there's a form of canine cancer that's sexually transmitted from one dog that lived 2,000 years ago. One dog. had a form of cancer that is now, I think it's kidney cancer of some sort, and now it is all over the world.
Yeah.
Like a huge portion of dog cancers came from this one animal, and this is a very rare case of a cancer surviving beyond its host.
Well, a cancer is a living thing in itself. Like, it has a purpose. It
Yeah,
really does,
cancer's-
even though it sucks for us if we lose someone, but it's actually creating balance, in the world. And I think of it scientifically. I try not to think about things subjectively. When I say that, I mean, for me, that means emotionally. You like to think about it with emotion almost. That's ultimately how I would use that word for me. It's very difficult to be objective.
It's impossible.
Well, I'm learning to think about things. Well, no, I mean, scientists have done a really good job at thinking about things objectively. It's how science has progressed. It's
Repeatable phenomena.
I understand that, but yes, but to not just say, "Oh my God, death is important," is what I'm trying to say.
It is, absolutely.
Death is very much as important as life. Without death, there is no life. We would destroy the whole thing. So that's what I'm trying to say. When I say scientifically, I think of logically. It's really difficult to think about something logically when you feel something. So you gotta wait. You gotta just wait till you don't feel anything, and then try to process those thoughts. And that's what I would consider logic, to be objective.
So I would
don't
sort
know-
of counter that
Okay.
by saying
Man, I
that.
just missed my thought though a minute ago.
I'm sorry.
No. I was saying that. No, I'll go ahead and counter me.
It's not that I'm disagreeing. It's that I would say that the entire process involves the emotion.
Oh, I think it's every bit as important as the logic.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
the emotion is
I just wanted to
what
clarify.
generates desire, and I think that's, you know what I mean? These emotions, without the emotions, none of us would exist. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so I was talking about the body. I think of it as a machine. And I told you I think of Nathan as the conscious thought, the CEO of this machine. But this machine is designed to do one thing: produce sperm, procreate. Right? Like, the desire to fuck is not Nathan. It's the body. It's the human body. I just get to choose. I don't get to choose whether or not my body wants to produce children. I get to choose how many children I produce. So we were talking about slut. Like, the body doesn't know no difference. It just says it generates desire within to procreate, to fuck, to reproduce. But then Nathan gets to choose how many children. It's like a factory that makes cars. We get to choose how many cars we make. The factory just knows, I'm here to make cars, bitches. Right? And does that make sense?
Yes, a pretty consistent
Think
theme.
of it logically for me. That's
Yeah.
logical.
No, I think it does. I would include, though, that a pretty consistent phenomenon throughout all of life as we know it is that there are things that come before fucking and procreating, and that is the survival of self. Now,
Yeah.
that is replaced once you have procreated.
Yep.
Survival of self kind of takes a backdrop for a little while. But like kangaroos, for instance, if there's significant drought or fire or whatever, kangaroos can make their fetuses go into a dormant state and not give birth. Bears, most species of bears simply self-abort. And if they don't have enough food to survive the winter, they just, and with the child, then they abort the child in order to survive the rest of the winter.
Yep.
Now, that said, humans are the same way. If we starve for long enough, our procreations, everything turns off. The drive turns off. We stop producing. Women stop becoming, like, women lose, everyone knows, your period can be affected by diet and everything like that. So, like, the drive to procreate is not even the most prevalent amongst our drives. The drive
I
to
know.
exist.
Oh, yeah.
survives
Well,
before
once
all of them.
everything is satisfied, you're 1,000% right. But why?
See, I would think the simple answer is there is no why.
I think the why is balance, right? There's an imbalance. I need to be fed. Why? To extend the life of the host. Why? To extend the life of the species, to extend the species' existence. Like, I have to self-preserve until I get this balanced out. I'm healthy. Now let's go fuck.
So I could agree with that entirely. My problem is that most people try to complicate that.
No, I know. I try to simplify it. I'm trying to say,
me
don't
too.
make sex taboo. When you make it taboo with children, it creates desire, right? It generates desire, and it's the reason why, by trying to stop it and trying to mystify it, it's why why we're overpopulated. It really, really is. If we would say, no, listen, like when we did the birds and the bees, it lasted 2 weeks. Did it not? It was a process. I say 2 weeks. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But the birds and the bees, do you even remember?
No.
Okay. Do you remember did I talk to you about what does the birds and the bees even mean? I'd never thought about it. No one ever told me what birds and the bees meant. I had to think about it. Like, what the fuck are they talking about? Why do we call it the birds and the bees? Have you ever thought about that?
Me or him?
You.
Me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We talk. In my opinion, most people refer to sex and procreation in metaphor and euphemism because they themselves were taught to be uncomfortable with the reality of it.
But birds. Okay, what is the bee? So I thought about the bee. The bee was easier to me than the bird. Maybe they just needed.
Oh,
you're
you're wondering what the literal translation was.
Fuck yeah, I thought about it. Oh, bees, pollination, plants, survival, right? Plants, creating plants, procreating, right? Cross-pollinating. Like it's the beginning of life.
Birds
It's
do
the
the same thing.
base. It's the birds. Yes, we cross.
And they shit out
And I
seeds all
started
over
thinking,
the place. I mean,
fuck, you're right. That's what they meant. These ancient philosophers were some fucking smart people, man.
or you could just call it replicating or sex.
But to use the term, yes, it's what it means. To the birds and bees. So we started off with the birds and the bees. Like the bees, what do? Okay, well, let's go to plants. We started talking about procreation, right? To reproduce, right? Wouldn't you say that's the basic terminology of that?
Yeah.
So plants have a desire to reproduce, whether it's an internal desire like we feel, something is forcing them to drop seeds, right? To make fruit sweet. Like it was evolution made the apple sweet to make the animal eat it to spread the seeds and create more apple trees, right? That's what it's basically
But it only
for.
made it sweet to certain animals.
True, I believe that. Because Toxoplasma gondii, right? Have you ever heard of that? It's a parasite. Toxoplasticity.
Toxoplasma gondii was the last one?
Toxoplasma gondii is a disease, I guess you could say. No.
blood
Toxoplasma
disease?
gondii is the parasite that I'm referring to.
Is it a blood parasite?
No, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. It's a fucking parasite. So I was researching this thing. This idea kind of made me understand a lot of things. It answered a lot of things for me. I hate to jump out of the birds and the bees, but I can come back to Toxoplasma gondii. So the birds and the bees, we went from plants.
I went to school for human sexuality. I can talk about it all day long.
We went from plants. Me and Dakota, we went from plants to basic animals like a dog. The desire to reproduce is very natural. Every time one goes into heat, they fuck. The difference is when it gets past a dog and a human, we have a responsibility to send that fucker through college and feed it, and a dog just don't care after a certain point, So that's where it's like the desire that's in you to want to reproduce. If you're wondering where that's coming from, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's very natural. It's part of life. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't get to choose how we feel. We get to choose our actions afterwards. We get to choose how long we feel that way. So that's why I thought it's very important to talk to my children about masturbation. What fucking parent teaches that? I was like, son, if you're ever in a situation, right, that you think you may have to perform in any way, find a bathroom, masturbate, you got 30 minutes of clarity, you will think logically just long enough to get the fuck out of there and not have a baby. Like that was the type of parenting that I gave. And I know I just kind of ran that. I said it lasted almost 2 weeks. Dakota, do you remember any of these things? You should have remembered. You were definitely old enough. That's why we were having these conversations. You don't remember me ever teaching you. He probably went into a state of denial and acted like this is not happening.
No, I think most of I remember us having that conversation, but most of the stuff I learned about, sex and all that I lived on the internet.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the internet age. So I had already, by the time me and you had that conversation, I had already known about.
But kids go through life feeling guilty.
Right.
Yeah. And I want to take, your mic is hot. I want to take, I don't want you to feel guilty. I want you to understand why. And it's completely normal. And the purpose of masturbation is to maybe save you from making a bad choice, especially if you don't have protection or whatever. So I said all that to say that I wanted to not make it taboo.
Yeah.
Right. And he's very safe. Him and his girlfriend, very responsible. Anyways, Toxoplasma gondii is a parasite that it blew my mind once I started researching it. And I don't know how it gets inside of a mouse, but it does. What it does is it gets into a mouse and takes over a mouse's brain to the point that the mouse will seek the urine of a feline, a cat. Starts seeking it out. And typically, urine from a cat, a mouse would run from, right? It would be a repellent. Well, in this case, I will wait.
No,
Are you looking it up?
Yep.
Okay, so in this case, what it does is the mouse will seek out the cat because the mouse to be eaten. The mouse will sort of sacrifice itself to the cat. Now, the mouse, I don't think consciously is doing this. It's just it feels compelled, I guess you could say. It has a desire to be eaten. And I fucking thought about this a lot. And I thought, why? I thought about the evolution of this fucking parasite, something so minuscule that we just overlook, right? That it had a desire to reproduce so bad that it found a way to rewire the electrical signals of a brain. I don't give a fuck what kind of brain, but a brain, and can trick this mouse into sacrificing itself to a cat.
And
Why?
seeking out a natural predator.
Why? Because the enzymes, I think, it may be enzymes, but within the stomach of the feline, the cat, is the perfect breeding ground for this parasite to reproduce. And it fucked me up when I thought about that. I thought, holy fuck, man. This desire to fuck is not us. It's something the evolution put within us. And the same thing with this Toxoplasma gondii. So apparently it's a fucking problem in Brazil that people are getting this parasite in human brains and causing toxoplasticity. Which apparently is making these Brazilians do some crazy shit. Like they've gotten to where they're very careless and reckless and stunts, and like they're living out these adrenaline, but they're infected with toxoplasticity and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to kill this parasite in the human brain. It kind of tripped me the fuck out. But you know, there's other ones. You remember the ant, the carpenter ant that was like the
fungus, the zombie
the fungus is called Orthoroid corduroy unilateralis. I can't pronounce it, but that's basically what it is.
Sure.
And it literally it infects an ant.
Yep, makes it go to the canopy.
So many centimeters high. Like it climbs a branch, locks on, because the humidity is perfect there, right? And then the ant locks onto a leaf, and then it starts drilling this out of the fucking the ant's brain. Why? To create these spores, and it drops them down to infect more ants.
So it's hijacked another animal to do its work.
We think we're
brilliant.
intelligent.
Yeah. The simplest organism always wins once you enter the arena.
Isn't it fucking amazing?
Yeah.
So I kept asking why? And man, it took me down these crazy roads. Like it literally brought me back to, man, golly, maybe that's proof there's a God and all these other things. Yeah. Hey, we're going to cut right here. How long have we been going?
Couple hours.
I mean, okay, so it isn't that I want to talk about these things. These are questions that like haunt me. Like I don't, like they keep me up. I spend a lot of time trying to turn this stuff off, but it's like these things are presented to me, and it's like, fuck, if I could just get the answers, I could move on with my life. I don't like thinking about these things. A lot of them, you know? It's like, okay, well, while it's here, I might as well fucking dwell on it a little bit. But I'm trying to get these fucking answers so I can just move on with my life. But it seems like every time I answer one, I get 10 more questions. So in that aspect, it's kind of fun digging through some of these things. And a lot of it, I just thought, who gives a shit? Who cares? You know? Is there any benefit? Is there any benefit to studying toxoplasticity? Like, I'm not no scientist, you know? Anyways, I think for me it was the why. It really helped me understand a lot of the whys that I had in life. But
well, and it's that certain organisms can attain so much, and like you, I think it might be humbling for you in a way.
God, yes, it made me
gain perspective.
I guess there has been a big benefit. Like, I'm happier. I'm happier. If I drew happiness for me, it looks like this. It's a sine wave. It's a bunch of positives and negatives, you know? So if here's the baseline of just nothing. I don't feel bad. I don't feel good. Like, I try to stay as close to this thing as possible unless I have some crazy goal. And that crazy goal looks like that, right? And then I have to come back down. And then it's done. And then I come down to here and I'll say, oh shit, it's been here too long. So I'm like right here, right now. I'm unhappy as fuck. And I'm trying to get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Anyways, I think these are little hits of happiness along the way. But I think the secret is to kind of, you know, and spend less time in the lows. But the lows are as important as the highs, because without any lows, this is where I go and I say, okay, I think I'm making some bad choices in my life. And it's like your body's way of saying, no, this is unproductive, man. You got to do something different, you know? Anyways, that's a shitty drawing. But that's my idea of happiness, is just up and down, nice, smooth. And I was talking on the podcast about likes and stuff and how unhealthy I think they are. Facebook likes and Instagram likes and little hearts. But then I started thinking all the effort I put into the podcast, you know. I never cared if anybody watched it until I started doing it. And then you're like, oh, fuck, what if nobody likes it? A like would be nice right now.
But
You
why?
Because I have an ego, because I still care what other people think, and you want to be relevant, you know, you don't want to be, you know, you don't, I say this, crazy people don't know they're crazy. Like, they have no fucking clue.
Must be peaceful.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, you don't know. You know, a lot of the times I thought I was losing my mind. I thought, what the fuck is wrong with
Well,
me?
there's also the Dunning-Kruger effect. Stupid people don't know they're stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like,
Well, I thought I was stupid my whole life.
oh, same.
Yeah. But
we are,
but
in many
because
ways.
because I accepted the measurement of intelligence by society standards, and then I
Exactly.
started realizing, oh fuck, you know, he or she is not dumb. They're doing something they hate, don't enjoy, don't care about. Like they should have been a nurse or a therapist or, you know, not a mechanic. You're just bad at this, but you're really, really good at talking to people. Like we're just not doing the roles that we were built for. Like society has developed these different roles. We need the guy that scoops shit. He's very much as important as everybody else.
We need the guy that's content to scoop shit. But what we don't need to do is brainwash
You're
an
right.
entire family.
Fucking A, that's what I'm trying to say. We have tried to force square pegs and round holes, or vice versa. Round holes, square pegs.
I think
That's what we're trying to fucking do, and it's wrong, man. We've got a lot of depressed fucking people out there that's thinking, oh, if I could just make this much money, or if I could sing, if I could get this, and like, fuck no, man. Look, all you want to do is find a shit scooping job that you enjoy. That's really all you really want to do.
Yeah. And the problem is that should be the goal. The goal should be, and like,
We don't glorify it though.
I hate to say this, and I'm not calling you out on it, but like, there's a central tenet of some communist beliefs that say to each their own strength, which means I'm gonna put the guy who's best at the job in charge of the job. I'm not gonna put the guy that scored highest on some fucking test. I'm gonna put the guy who wants to do it and who is best at it to do it, and nobody else.
Yeah,
And I'm not
well,
I'm not
okay,
calling
so
you a
my
communist.
philosophy in business is this. Don't try to hold anybody back.
No.
If somebody's unhappy for any reason, it's because they've lost the passion. They've lost the desire. So you should, if you're unhappy for any reason, you should be moving up, moving over, or moving on. Right? Move on. Do something else. Don't be too scared to leave this job. Because let's say that, okay, so have you ever heard of Price's Law? Price's Law? Square root law?
I don't think so.
Or is it Pareto's law? No, Pareto's the 80-20 rule. So Price's law is a phenomenon that I've kind of fell in love with. It's a square root law. If you take the square root of any group, you could call them hairstylists, lawyers, mechanics, bartenders. Let's use bartenders. You can relate to bartenders. You can take the square root of 100, right? The square root, or you know, the square root of 100 would be 3.3, 30.3, right? It is. So it's like the square root of 100 would be 30.3. So the point is that the square root law is this. The square root of any group will produce 90% of the overall output, right?
Yeah.
So the square root of 100 would be 30 people, and they will produce 90% of the overall output that the other 70 can do. Okay, then you take the square root of those 30. We can say 10. We can say the square root of 10 is 3.3. So 3 people can produce 90% of the overall output as the other 7. And then the square root of those 3 would be 1. So one fucking person can produce as much as the whole fucking group combined. Here's the problem. That's a hierarchy. You could see that as a hierarchy. I see everything as almost like a hierarchy. It's just the way we're designed, you know? Here's the problem. Once the best is unhappy, he is a poison to the entire group. Mm-hmm. He will talk negatively. He will bitch. He will moan, especially when he is getting the paid, the exact, he meets the pinnacle. Like he's made as much money as he can possibly make, he or she, and someone else that can't do the job as well as him is making the exact same amount of money. Now he's like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? It's like, they become cynical. They become like, what the fuck am I even doing this for? I work my ass off to become the best. That's why I say, no, man, listen, don't. And then management tries to hold them back. No, he's the best. I got to keep him in this situation. No. If they're unhappy for any reason,
Why does management try to hold them back?
Fear of lack of progress.
Lack of progress looking like
Their fear of
losing profit.
Yeah, you're right. Or fear of, their superior, because we have an obligation. Look, we work for people. For money. We have to put out what they want. Whether you're
watch Star Trek?
bartending. No.
All right, we're gonna simplify this a little bit.
Well, I want to finish my thought though.
Please do.
I think the secret is, if you want progress to happen efficiently, right, and to keep all parties happy, the worst thing you can do is keep that guy in that position. You should encourage him to move up, move over to a different responsibility, or move on to another company. Start over fresh, right? Don't penalize them. They have the potential to be the best at whatever they want to do, so give them another opportunity. Because what really happens, once they end up leaving, whether it being fired or whatever, the rest of the group feels that void, and they create, because what happens is once you're at the top, you almost suppress. You don't want any challengers. It's a weird fucking ego thing that I see. You want to stay at the top. All I'm saying is if they seem unhappy, encourage them to move over, move on, go try something new. Because man, the best thing, because they become a sickness in that group, they end up creating a negative environment. It's just unhealthy. And once they're gone, people start rising to the top, and it's really incredible when I see it happen. It's like, whoa. People think they're irreplaceable until they leave, and they see 5 other people did exactly what they did.
It's osmosis, And
yeah, it's really an incredible thing, but it's Price's Law. It's a really fucking amazing thing. Now, they don't talk about moving on. It's just the square root of any number. It's really any square root of any group. It's a really fascinating thing. It happens all the time. It's a phenomenon.
So I think that so the reason I mentioned Star Trek before is because it's what they call a post-scarcity society. So they provided everything that needs to be provided. There's no concept of currency anymore unless they're dealing with an alien planet that uses currency, in which case they'll use it just in order to deal with that planet. So nobody earns any money. What happens is your worth, your status, is entirely based upon your reputation.
Yeah, tribalism. Very tribalist. We barter, we trade.
But how can you barter on reputation?
Well, man, reputation, I think, is a very important thing. I think reputation is one of the hardest things you can change, good or bad. If you have a good
Agreed.
reputation, somebody could say, Eric is a fucking liar. I'd be like, oh, that ain't his reputation. I don't believe that. It would take a lot. I would just have to hear it from a lot of people.
Yeah.
If I heard that someone, I always say, they say put your best foot forward, whatever. When you come into a company, you get to start all over. Your reputation, you have none. You can come in and bust ass for 6 months and start right. You can chill after that because you have a reputation. It takes a long time to lose it. So, anyways, I guess I barter on my reputation all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the concept of networking in general, right?
Yeah.
To a degree, except the concept of networking also relies on your ability to contact those in the network. If you're never given the opportunity to contact a network that might advance you, if you lack the exposure to the people with whom networking might advance you, then what's it matter? So, that's my point, is if reputation can raise you, if currency, money's the root of all evil, man. That's a thing. That's been a thing in our culture for forever, and yet we're still a capitalistic culture, and nobody denies that anymore. We finally ripped the veil off of that one. Thank goodness.
Even in socialistic cultures, it's capitalistic. It really is.
I have a problem with the concept of currency.
Yeah, look, I don't know if I have a problem with it. I don't have any problems.
It's a shitty carrot.
I don't have any problems. I try to understand why it even exists. And it was really easy for me to say, okay, I don't want to do away with it because holy fuck. I'm not saying I know and I don't know. I'm trying to say I've come to a point that I've accepted it because we are a primitive species still, and we're still evolving, and I'm patient. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, but if I can focus on being the best version of me possible, which includes being the best father, husband, friend, that's really the main thing. That's what I mean by being productive. And if I'm an unhappy person, it's really hard to be a positive person to someone that needs you in a moment of troubled times. I have to be happy first before I'm any benefit to my children, my wife, or friends. I really need to be a happy person by making good choices and being productive. And right now, I don't feel very productive. I feel that I picked a wrong time to start a podcast. I think that it is getting in the way of some of the other things that I need to do. But also, I say, well, no, you're just being a bitch and you're lazy, and those things are easy if you could just get off your ass and do it. I need somebody to hit me with a board, and it'd be done. I said a lot, but I'm saying that I have a responsibility to be happy, and I try to make choices that put me in a position to be that, because then I'm a much better father. I'm a more patient father. You know, I'm more patient in a way that I don't get frustrated. I used to get very frustrated, and wanted. I'll show you how to do it, right? And I'm learning to just chill the fuck out, man.
You got to respect the process and respect other people's process as well. And you can't just force perspective on other people. That's not how it works.
We're a society that does that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And I'm trying
that's part
to
of my
evolve
problem.
out of that. I'm trying to evolve out of that way of thinking and just letting everybody be. But if you want to be in my circle,
your freedom stops being a freedom when you can infringe it upon others.
Yeah.
In my opinion, so. I want to mention, I think it relates to something you were saying just a second ago. You've ever heard of the movie The World's End?
I don't know.
It's a Sean Pegg and Nick Frost movie. So it's it's The World's End. So it's based around the concept of there's this guy that wants to complete a pub crawl, right? And it's now I've been to The World's End.
I have seen it.
Yes.
It's a pub crawl.
That's what The World's End. It's The World's
It's a
End
movie
pub crawl.
about this group. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it's a movie about a group that wants to complete a pub crawl. Like he's trying to relive his glory days in college, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, long story short, I mentioned the World's End because of the name. I've been to the World's End Tavern in Scotland, in Edinburgh. And the reason it was called the World's End is fascinating to me. The reason it was called the World's End is because there existed a series of walls. As the city grew, more and more walls got built. There was a period of time in Edinburgh's history. Is it in Edinburgh? I think it's in Edinburgh. There's a period of time in Edinburgh's history where, in order to leave the walls of this establishment, and those walls were there because it was a very warlike, time of history there. There's not an inch of Scotland that's not covered in blood. It's fascinating. But it was called the World's End Tavern because, in order to leave this town, you had to have a certain amount of money to pay a toll. And there was a period of time where you got that money back if you came back. It was weird. So in order to leave this city, in order to exit those walls, you had to have a certain amount of money, which most people in most castes within this city would never achieve outside of multiple generations saving everything they'd ever earned. It was called the World's End Tavern because, for all intents and purposes, the majority of that society would never see life beyond those walls. That was the end of the world for them. The world might as well not exist beyond those fucking walls. That's why it was called that.
I heard I don't know who it was, said that man does not seek freedom. They seek safety, right? To be free is a very scary fucking thing. It's why anybody can be an entrepreneur, but that's fucking terrifying to be responsible for yourself. But people want security and safety. And I'm not so convinced that people that are living, I want my own choice. Like I would not do well in a society like that. I would be the guy chiseling out. I wouldn't go to prison without every moment thinking of ways to be.
Well, all walls eventually come down.
But most people love the idea of being told what to do, when to do it.
Well, it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's safe.
It's somebody else's responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
You don't.
And I think most human beings are that way.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's kind of important that they are. It kind
that's why
of
religion
creates that
exists.
hierarchy that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I know it's a trigger word for a lot of people, I guess. But I think the problem with it is, the problem with it is that we're a species that depends on it. I hate that, but it is what it is. Someday we won't have that, I think. I think the future may hold something different to where people don't care. We're just bartering. I make something, you need it, bread, food, whatever. We go back to tribalism. I love the idea of trading. It really...
Bartering?
Yeah, I love it. But I think the problem with it is when unhappy fucking people, are at the top and refuse to leave. Like, you should seek happiness. Move away from that because you're bored. You're burnt out. You've achieved everything there. Go do something. Knit. Go chop firewood. Do something. And allow the people to it should constantly be moving. Like it should be this living, breathing thing where people are constantly, you should start off at the bottom, right? You start off at the bottom of a mountain, not the fucking top. Who wants to start at the top of Everest? Nobody. That sounds ridiculous, right? So I want to achieve that. You fucking climbed up to base camp. Imagine starting at base camp and walking down. How miserable would that have been?
Actually, it was a blast.
Walking down?
Yeah.
But where'd you start at?
We started in Kathmandu and then we flew.
But you had to hike up, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, but that's what the most miserable, like when I backpack, It's the most miserable thing I've ever done, and I question why I ever did it until I've done it, and I have 5 minutes to say,
I lost 40 pounds in a month.
I believe it.
I was miserable to degrees.
How long were you there?
Sorry?
How long were you there? Did you get altitude sickness?
Fewer than 3 weeks. No. Altitude sickness. Yeah. I got like some small symptoms of altitude sickness, but there's medication for that, and it's just like such a random thing that we don't even really understand.
He got it on Elbert.
Yeah.
14,000 feet. He got it. He was
yeah.
sick as a dog.
Oh, I mean, you can't. People do high altitude training, but that's more about blood oxygen levels. It's less about altitude sickness. Altitude sickness can affect fucking anybody. Like some people are genetically.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with your shape, body, whatever.
You
I
can
thought
train
it
at high
did.
altitude
But
your whole life. No.
Yeah.
No. The reason walking down was really fun is because you have so many fucking red blood cells, and oxygen becomes much more rich that you feel like a god. You feel like a superhuman. You're just like jogging down my entire for a week. I was just jogging downhill. It was
But
great.
you only had that because you had time to acclimate, right? And if you would have just been dropped off and had to hike down, it would have just been so anticlimactic and boring. And, right. So that's why I kind of love the idea of this hierarchy. I see everything in triangles. I should draw it one day. It's the what I think human beings are doing. And I think a happy society is a society that is just constantly moving up towards something if you want to, or stay where you're at. It's whatever you want to fucking do. But people need to learn to move the fuck on. Quit holding a position and hoarding it for yourself. Let other people have a shot at it. Get the fuck out of here, especially if you're unhappy.
The problem is if you place all of the importance into one thing, like currency, like capital.
I agree.
It blocks.
I think of them as goals, dopamine-inducing goals, right? To accomplishment. I think of the hierarchy as little accomplishments. You know, it's I think of it as a positive thing for society to have spoken languages. You know,
I would think it would be more positive to have one.
So what one spoken language? Okay, yeah, I agree. It would definitely be more positive, but that's I agree, but we just don't get it. You know,
Why?
Well, because I mean, golly, man, the human nobody knows. I mean, the way we distributed ourselves throughout the planet, and it's just fascinating that we have so many spoken languages. Yeah. I mean, it's just
many
the
of them
human
are beautiful
species.
and have their own value, but like to me,
we've almost narrowed it down to the one English language.
No, English is the third most popular language in the world.
Okay, well, it seems like the first.
It's because of where we live.
Spanish is first.
Spanish is first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I think it's Chinese, Mandarin.
Oh well, that's obvious. Chinese, yeah, there's more of them is why. but I have no problem. I guess I'm at this point in my life. I'm happy.
Good.
With I want you to.
See,
be
we started
you.
this conversation with you not being happy, so I think
No. Yeah, I know. I'm in that moment of and I understand the secret is that I understand the importance of my unhappiness, and I know what it's from. It's self-induced. I don't have borders and boundaries, and I have no one to force me to do these things that I don't want to do. Right? There's nobody standing over me, and it's just put me in it's just normal. It's very, very normal. Like I've regretted doing the podcast since I started doing it because it was just one responsibility. I didn't know how hard it would be. This is the easy part. Distributing it is the very difficult part.
Why's that? How do you mean?
Well, like writing a title. I'm going to have to break this thing down into small segments.
Yeah, I've seen you do that.
I have to go back and watch this whole fucking thing, right?
Yeah.
Think of 6 to 8 minutes of somewhat intriguing conversation. Like it has to start off intriguing enough to make somebody want to keep watching. Oh, it has to start off this way. There has to be a thumbnail, right, that catches a visual attention, and it has to look like something that also is not clickbaity. It actually applies to that segment. And then there has to be a title that's interesting enough to make you even want to click that thumbnail. And then it has to start off just interesting enough to make someone keep watching. So I only get about 3 to 5 seconds to captivate your attention. So I have to pick a part in that 6 to 8 minutes, 3 minutes, that has that 3 to 5 seconds of, oh yeah, this makes sense. This applies. And then I have to think of a way to cut it off, right, that may encourage someone to watch another thing. Like there has to be a concept. That's the way I've built it for myself. Because my brain...
That's how that works.
Fuck yeah, because my brain can't just make a podcast and say, if you like it, you like it. No, it has to be good. It's like there's something inside of me that doesn't allow things to... Because I understand these things, it's like, oh, I have to do them.
Yeah.
I don't like social media at all. I think it's misused badly because of us, because we're such flawed creatures. But it's like a drug to me, and I don't like seeking my dopamine, my hits of drugs from social media because it's such a small hit. Like I could put out this amazing video. I just hit 2 million views. I didn't. I have a music video that's on someone else for bands. The Nearly Dead. Check them out. They're amazing.
Oh, I've seen it.
The first rock video I ever did hit 2 million views just recently. I was so excited for them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's hard to do, man. It's really, really hard. Now it was easy on theirs because they have a huge following, but I mean it's pretty rare for anyone to hit 1 million views, much less 2 million. So. But even that only lasted for a minute. The high that I experienced from that was gone just as fast as I got it.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
That sucks.
So I'm trying to chase things in life that have more long-lasting, not big highs, small highs, vacations with my family and moments that we can look back on. And like, I don't know, as a father now, I'm already thinking about being a grandfather. It was weird to me. I never wanted to be a grandfather. Would have never entertained the idea. And in the last couple months, I started thinking, oh, no, I think I'm okay with that. Okay, it's another high, I guess. But it's just something, I don't fucking know. I'm all over the place. But we're going to have to write down a few of these things and revisit them. I don't want to cut you off. If there's anything you got on that list you want to go for, I think Dakota may have, are you burnt out?
He's been concentrating real hard.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Longest podcast yet. I can tell you this. My favorite. Only because I think this is what I had in mind when I started it, random thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think I should have started with you first.
Well, it's at the time I probably would have been hard to get a hold of because job and everything. And right
Well,
now,
also you probably needed to see it a little bit because you watched it a little bit to kind of even decide whether or not you even wanted.
I had it in my mind that I was going to watch every single second of every single video that you've done, and I got through like 2 of the snippets that you posted with the artist Momoski.
Yep.
That you have, and then I got through like I think 10 or 15 minutes of you and Dakota because I was interested in that. But other than that, I didn't watch anything else because I struggle with doing anything. Like
no, it's completely normal. I figure the last people that will watch this will be the people that know me. It's kind of just the way it is. When you know somebody, you don't tend to follow their art.
Well, I'm just really.
You ever notice that? Like a lot of like famous people, their family really don't even know what they do. Isn't that weird?
I mean, it's not because it is normal. Like statistically, that's just the case.
Yeah. I think the people that actually would enjoy this are the people that don't know me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to know where art will take you, where the audience might lie, and if it's a formula that I understood, it's a formula that I would follow. But I mean, I have the issue of. Like for me, I know what I want. Like my dopamine hits mostly come from travel and eating exotic foods and drinking exotic drinks. The most. Oh yeah, and just meeting new people, gaining new perspectives. I remember when I went to Scotland, I came back fucking furious. I was furious. I felt like I'd been cheated. And I felt like I'd been cheated because I went from living on the East Coast with a wide range of chosen family, just like family friends, moving to the hills of West Tennessee and having 0 friends and having a name of Garcia, which was not popular. Even like it was so unpopular that my parents lied about my last name. I went through an unofficial name change and got visited by the feds in high school. So that's a story for another time. But like basically, my last name was Wilson at the time, which is why most of my high school friends can't find me, and which is awesome. I love that. But I felt like I got cheated because I grew up with Spanish as my first language, being exposed to so many different cultures, and I loved every second of it. And then I got sequestered into this tiny little hillock in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee, and I got exposed to like 1.5 types of people for 20 years of my life, and it was awful. And then I went to Scotland, and I was just like, oh, other perspectives exist. Some people have progressed beyond the fucking Stone Age. Some people are not so concerned about their family that they can't think about other people. Like when I went to Scotland, you couldn't find a fucking paper towel to save your life. The only places that had paper towels had them monogrammed because they were that fucking rich. It was a castle. So like when I went to Scotland, everybody had hand dryers. Not just any hand dryers, gross like 10-year-old hand dryers because they decided that paper towels were not sustainable. Decades behind the U.S. Decades. Remote farms had solar panels.
I think, I would be willing to bet, and I've never been to Scotland, never really been much out of the United States, but I think there's two sides. I think if we could go there and live there, we would find the things that we would compare negatively.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I don't know what they are. So I try to say, I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to say with that.
What I'm trying to say is, like, I mean, I know that I would find negatives and positives anywhere, especially if I lived there long enough, and I would always want to travel no matter, I could live in fucking paradise and I would still want to travel. Yeah. My point is, I want more.
That's the thing. I don't want to live in paradise. I want to appreciate paradise.
I want to live in a place that allows...
You're living in a really good place.
Yeah.
To be stimulated very easily. Go anywhere and you're stimulated.
Yeah.
Although if we were gone from here long enough, I think we would miss the mountains, and I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't.
Oh, I remember when I was a kid coming through Tennessee, coming from Virginia. I remember thinking,
Well, fuck, that's the mountains anyways.
well, it is, but it's a different climate.
Oh no,
entirely.
he was on the East Coast, not West Virginia.
No, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
East Coast, like Virginia
Virginia.
Beach, Norfolk,
Yeah.
that whole area. And I was born in Norfolk, but like coming into Tennessee, I remember thinking I'd never seen so many shades of green. Beautiful state, absolutely gorgeous, and most people take it for granted. Most of the people in Nashville won't visit any of the like 25 waterfalls that are 30 miles from Nashville. You know, like it's all close by, and half of us have never been to Chattanooga. You know, we definitely take for granted where we are. My point is having the fucking option, man. Like in England, it's like 6 weeks mandatory paid vacation.
Yeah.
That's like the fucking standard.
That's something
here,
we should
vacation,
investigate.
Vacation isn't standard here.
Yeah.
It's not. And
I
like
know.
what kills me is we can reduce
agree.
the hours that people have to work and increase productivity by doing so.
Yeah, I know.
The science
I
is
know.
there, the statistics
yeah,
are there.
it's you would people. It would be amazed if people understood how many hours of output they actually get from their employees. It's sad.
Oh yeah, no. Let me drop a bomb here. There's just it's slightly unrelated, but it's just as much of a revelation. Like in that there are some things that we just do wrong. The more democratic a country is led, the fewer abortions happen. Because of the spread of education, the regulation of medical availability, and just general access to everything. Not limiting access of certain quality of medical care or education to only the group of people that can afford it.
Yeah.
So there's a bomb, and you don't have to put that in there. I'm just saying that as a personal
No, it's all
thing.
in there. It's all in there. It's, I mean, it's your perspective. It's your point
Yeah.
of reference. It's what you know.
It's
And
also a
I don't-
statistic.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. Man,
It's
I
a
have hard
repeatable
time-
phenomenon.
Yeah, I worry about what I'm being told from any side.
Sure.
You know, until I can experience it for myself.
I would encourage you to look it up.
Yeah, but I would still be leery because, man, look, it depending on what side you fought on in World War II and Vietnam, everybody everybody writes their own history.
Yeah.
You know, and people write their own statistics, and no one wants to point and say they're a better country than us. You know what I mean? I think all of them try to say they're the best.
I want to visit them all.
Yeah, I
That's
do
all I
too.
want.
I do too. You know what? I thought I wanted to visit all of them, and then I realized, oh my God, there's so many cultures in the United States. Like
could
there's
spend-
so much.
You could spend your entire life here.
Yeah, and
and
it's
see-
exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cities that only speak Spanish or Mandarin or
it's
whatever.
incredible.
Yeah.
And
Glacier Lake,
So
good
that's
Lord.
the choices that I'm trying to make in life. Everyone, financially, is to put me in a position to explore as much of this world as I possibly can, but not just see it. I really want to experience it. I want to live there. I bought an RV just so. I mean, I want to stay in a place for 6 months
That's
and be a
awesome.
part of the culture and really see, is it as great as I think? You know what I mean?
I would just
Anyway.
value the experience personally.
I gotta set myself up though. I don't think a vacation's good enough for me. 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there.
No,
it's
it's
not
not.
enough.
It's
I
not.
mean, I come back and I need to live there.
Yes.
And so every choice I'm making is kind of trying to give me that financial freedom.
so
I don't want to
hard.
be rich. I want to be free from normal, everyday, mundane. I don't care about the money. I want
The experience.
the experience. That's
Same.
all I care about. Yeah. That's
Same.
all I care about.
It's just very difficult for me. Like, I guess my cop out is to just rage against the system that makes it so difficult, as opposed to just grinding my bones to dust trying to achieve.
I don't think you have to grind your bones to dust. I think you got to find something you enjoy, which is something you're good at. And that's what I'm really good at. If I was ever good at anything, it's figuring out how to make $1 out of anything.
It's a valuable skill in this country.
A valuable skill anywhere in the world, you know
True.
what I mean? Because it doesn't
Because
have
of
to be
this
$1. Here we glorify $1, but if I was in another country, it would be a trade, it'd be a service, you know. Of
course.
I'd be able to find ways to make my life easier. I'm lazy. I'm
Same.
super, super lazy, which made me really good at finding ways around things. Anyways, I want to cut it off here if you
Yeah.
don't mind.
No, not at all.
Been a long one.
Yeah.
I got a lot to go through. Dakota, sorry we spent all night. Is your mom home? Don't know. I've had a really good time.
Hey, me too, man.
And I really do hope that you consider doing this again. I think
Yeah.
every time we do this, we'll really dial it in. And you know what? I could probably take this shit and go to your house or wherever. We could probably do this anywhere.
I mean, I have the space. It's,
You had to come from Nashville for this.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Not that it was a long way.
It's super easy right now because Julia's working from home, so I can just borrow her car
Y'all live
anytime.
together.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, for years.
Man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.